Telatalk podcast, season 11, episode 3. AB Dash, Tokyo E. We have a special guest in the building. Goes by the name of Josh Madden. What's up, Josh?
Hey, man.
All right, we're having a conversation before this about basically what we do on this podcast, and everybody who knows listens, and they know what we do on the podcast. We're explaining to Josh what we do. We talk about the culture. We talk about stuff that matters to us within the culture. So Josh was basically explaining how he got into all of this and how we're both from smaller markets, I guess you can say.
Yeah, the thing I was telling you about is it's interesting because what I was saying is you guys are where you are, and in the town that you're in. What it's funny because I grew up the same way. I grew up really in a real a super duper country town. It was like Friday Night Lights. It was like cornfields and tobacco fields, and everybody played football and went hunting. And by the way, both of those things are amazing. I don't ever put down anything. Like all cultures are cultures, right? So, but it's interesting because where we grew up, it's kind of like, it's interesting because I think there's outliers everywhere. Like if you live in a beach town and you're like, I live in a beach town, but I like, bowling. That's not very big in my beach town.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there's always going to be someone that's like, the thing I like about the quote unquote culture, whether it's pop culture or any kind of independent culture, is the thing that's cool about independent culture is you go to these little hubs, whether you go to a local skate shop or you go to a store, you were naming some brands, and it's interesting in the last couple of years, this term of streetwear and street fashion or whatever you want to call it, it's interesting because there's these stores that you find in every city, and they vary just a little bit. You go to Houston or you go to Albuquerque, New Mexico. You go to places in Chicago. You go all over the United States. You go to smaller towns outside of bigger cities, and there's always a one or two stores, and they have these brands, you were naming off these brands, and they might have some bear bricks. They might have some cool ceramic ashtrays or some cool incense, whatever it is that kind of fits into this lifestyle that we're sort of interested in. Some good magazines. Maybe they got some Jason Mark's shoe cleaner. And you're like, oh man, and you're in the store and someone's looking at your shoes, and you're like, I'm from such and such, and I'm visiting out here. My guy my homie is living in Chicago, and he brought me to this. Whether you go to any of these sneakers and stuff, or a RSVP or a bodega or whatever these stores are, there's a version of them in every small town, and or outside of every city. And it's cool because it's kind of like the barber shop or the coffee shop, and you go in and some guy's looking at your shoes or something you got, and he's like, yo man, where did you get that? And did you go to Complex Con, or did you go to such and such? Did you go here? And they're like, oh no, we got this shop in my town, and they carry this and they carry that. And to me, it's very, very important. And these conversations, your podcast, is very important because regardless of how many listeners you think you have or who's listening, you're reaching people, and that's that's really important because it doesn't just exist on the internet. It's interesting because I work in music, and I work around whatever this world is, whatever you want to call it, that we're talking about right now. And it's the same thing. You can have an artist that makes a thing in their bedroom, and and everybody on the internet goes crazy, and then they go on tour, and there's 300 kids show up. That's not bad. I'm not shitting on it, but I'm it takes, in order for something to become part of culture, it takes us talking about it. It takes, when you go on tour, say you're somebody and you made a song in your bedroom, whether you're, Triple X or Juice World or any of the people, Lil Peep, or any of these artists that we saw in the last couple of years, rest in peace to all of them.
Yeah, rest in peace to all of them.
But I'm saying it's really interesting because those guys, I remember, I've been in this for 20 years in music and this stuff, and I remember those kids, all of which I think were very special and in their own right and in their own way, they were doing different things. And I think, but to the conversation, you're like, oh man, this kid's blowing up, and like people are putting him on online magazines and this and that, and maybe they're in Fader, and like, but no one's really seen them. Like maybe they played South by Southwest, then they go on tour, and there's like, maybe they, if they don't get an opening spot for Drake or someone, they're sort of playing like a 300 cap room or a 500 cap room,
Yeah, versus like what we always talk about here is a lot of big companies like to only value numbers rather than impact, and I feel like an impact is worth way more than a number would be, because if somebody has less numbers, but if I have 10,000 followers and all 10,000 followers impact more than somebody who has 1 million and only gets 30,000 conversion, my percentages are way higher than yours are.
100%, you're 100% correct, and it's what I think. Like I'm not the companies that I'm working for and that I'm part of. I'm not a lot of other names, and I like being who I am. Like I design. Yeah. I'm not trying to show you my car or my watch. By the way, no offense. Like we all have cars and watches and girlfriends or people, whatever we want to show on Instagram. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm not in any way saying like posting your watch or posting your shoes or like we all have lives that we're proud of and things that we love that we're showing off to our friends and other people. But I think what you're saying is correct, is like basically like if you're really truly yourself, 100% yourself, and people are connecting with it, those people are going to be more connected with you than just like, look, I was saying to a friend of mine the other day, I was talking to this, I don't know if you know Salehi. Yeah, Salehi. I was talking to Salehi, and I was like, look, I was telling him the same exact thing you're saying. I was like, yo, we're on this hike, and he's like doing this mountain hike thing, and I'm like, Salehi, you need to make this a TV show. And he's like, yeah, I don't know if I really, that's really my thing. And I'm like, look, man, like everyone loves you. You're such a good dude. Your message is so great. You reach and influence people in a positive way. And I was like, that Oprah has a crazy big acting career and she's a crazy actress, but her talk show is what everyone knows really she's known for, because people love Oprah. Like I said, name me a person that wouldn't go on Oprah.
Exactly, because of the exposure. I had the same thought that you had with the Salehi thing, because that's how we got to connect. So shout out to Salehi through the connect with that one. He had Magic Johnson no look pass with that one, but that's the same thing that I was thinking from the aspect of like just like Salehi's a designer. That's how I got to know him, and like he's a black designer at that. So like he's giving kids who may not see like that happen very often aspiration to be like that. So that's why I always follow Salehi, and I think his designs are dope. Like those new Balances that he's gonna drop are super dope. But like I had the same thinking as you, where it was like Salehi should turn this into something. If this has not even been a conversation yet, that he should turn this into a podcast or like something more visual, because I feel like the visuals of the hiking is what enhances the aspect rather than just a vocal podcast.
I just told him, I'm 100% again. You're 100% on. I told him I've known him through a couple different facets for a while. We both came from New York. I originally came from Maryland, the DMV area, but then I moved to New York. I lived there for 13 years, and we were hiking. And I hike. I'm a dad, and I'm in my 40s, and I'm like, the COVID thing's going on, and I'm like, this is the thing you can do. You can put in your earbuds and just go for an hour and a half walk, and like there's people up, sometimes you see people and they're with their friends or their girlfriend or whatever. It's like a good thing to do. And I told him, I was like, look, obviously I think personally at this time in history, I think I have a lot of friends that are I'll just say not white, And I think that it's crazy. I just referenced Oprah. And it's like cool that Oprah exists. She's not like, if you're a young if you're a young person of color, a woman, who are you looking at? You're looking at like Vashti, Oprah,
shout out to Vashti, the queen,
Aleli May. Like you're looking at, but the thing is, it's sad to me because it's like, it should be so much more. I actually know a bunch more that are like in the incoming, like moving forward. And I was telling Salehi, I was like, look, I was like, man, you should do this because I think people everywhere, kids everywhere, every color, it costs $0 to go on a hike. It's
true.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot, bro. I know it sounds like super like goofy, but it's a lot. Like people once you realize like it's something to do with your friends, and you're like, you go on a hike with someone, it's the same as breaking bread. Like breaking bread is a special thing. You sit down and you're like,
because it's not a breaking of bread of actual monetary thing. It's a breaking of bread of actual time.
And exactly. And like I hit him and I was like, yo, I go to the same place all the time. I see you're hiking with me. I didn't hit him on some like, let me be on your Instagram. I know him, you know, like I was like, show me that hike. How long is it? And he's like, it's about an hour and a half. And I was like, oh, dip. Like that's a good one. And I know Josh, I've known Josh. I know a couple people in common. And the thing about it is I think like what you're saying though, I was telling him the same thing. I was like, look, the people, and this is exactly what I said. I was like, the people that follow me might not know you. People follow me, they're like might know about tattoos or punk like music or like whatever. And like I'm like a lot of people that I tell about you, they don't know about you. Like like a lot of people in the community of like music and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, check this out. Like this guy, he did this, he did that, he did this. Like I like the whole plant thing. He's like, people started messaging about the different plant containers, the I don't know if you call it a vase,
the vases AB Dash, what would you call that? He's super into flowers. What would you call that thing that Salehi makes? It's like a pot, isn't it?
No, I'm not familiar with Salehi, but it's probably you would refer to it.
He makes like he has people make special like pots out of like basketballs and like random different like ceramic type things, and but the thing is like I think he's a good example. That's cool if you are a person of color and you look at him and you're like, yeah, he's a person of color. Like I think he's a good example to me. It's
not a color barrier thing. Yeah, it's not a color barrier thing.
I think personally, like there's so many people that I know like Salehi, like Josh Videz or like Sean Witherspoon or like everybody's got their own thing. Like if you're a young kid and you're like from a place like Richmond, Virginia, and you're like, oh yeah, like I'm into this vegan lifestyle. You look at Sean Witherspoon, you connect to him. Like I look at this is what I really kind of wanted to put in front of you as like you're doing a podcast, which there's no like you're in a community. If you do a podcast, you're in a community of a bunch. You're like you're like Bodega Boy. Like there's a bunch of people in the community of like media. Like that's what it is. I would never consolidate what you're doing to a podcast. You could end up doing like Bodega Boys. You could end up on any different outlet, any different network. And by the way, congratulations, 11 seasons if you're really 11 seasons deep, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, we do 10 episodes a season. We're 11 seasons in. We just recently hit our 100 episode mark. Yeah. We've been doing this for like 4 years, though. We had another podcast before, and then we switched into this podcast.
Yeah, we've been doing this since like college radio.
Yeah, it's amazing. So originally how we started it was my cousin had a college radio show, and he brought in me and AB Dash because it's my cousin and he's friends with my cousin as well, and then another one of our friends, and we had a podcast named SSD where we would talk about everything, like relationship stuff like that and and things of that nature. But after we all graduated, we didn't really want to talk about the same shit anymore. Like we actually wanted to talk about shit that we actually like skate culture, like streetwear or high fashion or music, hip hop, whatever music that we wanted to talk about. So then me and AB Dash connected and started doing this podcast as well, and then we called it Telatalk.
And you're right about. I mean, I don't ever like demonize like big companies or whatever. Like I worked on, I worked at a record label. I worked at an agency. I worked at, I helped run Nylon. Like, there's all this different stuff that I've done. Like, the bigger companies, they got their own problems to deal with and stuff like that. I try with everything that I do to show people. Like I try with where I'm at right now with our company, with my brothers and I have a company, and then handling X large and X girl. I try. If you look at the X large and X girl Instagram, I try to put people on that like are just like there's people that are not in any way an influencer. They just bought clothes, and I'm like, oh man, she's cute, or like, oh, he looks cool, you know, like just shout. I think showing people each other, you know, like you like if you hit on like I put a girl up, we put a girl up on Instagram yesterday, or it might have been this morning for ex girl, and if you hit on her profile, you might see her. I don't know how many followers she has, like, but it's like you might see her, and a girl might be like, oh shit, like she's like me, like they might even connect. And the thing for me is like I think where it all goes back to, regardless of the time we're in, you know, we're in a weird time with all kinds of ways. Yeah. And we can speak on that if you want to, but I think I'm seizing the opportunity because a lot of companies right now are like, oh shit, what do we do? And I'm like, yo, it's cool if you have the money if you're a sneaker brand and you have the money to shut down a block and have a huge rapper play and throw a block party and promote a shoe and spend $2.3 million. That's cool. That's great. That's really great. Cool. Good for you. Your marketing budget is great and you're selling shoes. That's cool. That's not where I think where it really happens is in the streets and with people, with kids from town to town. That's me. I
agree with it. I think that's how we got to where we are as well now. Like it's like what I take from the success that we've had from this podcast is the social media presence isn't really necessary. Like AB Dash and me probably have at least maybe, I don't know, 500 followers or something like that on Instagram or whatever. But we're getting close to almost 1 million listens. That shouldn't equate in the corporate world that I have 500 followers and AB Dash has 500 followers. That's 1,000 between the both of us, but we have almost 1 million listens on our podcast.
And by the way, you just hit me up and you were like, "Hey, like I want to talk about this." I don't even have to. If it's for me, regardless, my goal in life, and I have a pretty cool life. I think anybody can have the life that I had. I just basically, and I mean, I'll talk on that. I'll do like, it's basically
we'll get to how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. I just basically what I was gonna say to you guys is like, I think I encourage it, and I encourage like you can never have enough. By the way, never have enough boutique stores where people can go and hang out. Look at me. There's a 12 or 13-year-old kid right now, like me, when I was 12 and 13, who has, you know, a rough time at home, doesn't have a lot of money, and would die. Like when I went to when I met Sean, when I went to round 2, I was telling Salehi, I was like, when I met Sean, it was the first like week or two of the store being open. I was blown away because I went in there and I talked to every single individual, and I couldn't tell who the owner was. I didn't know that when I went in the first day, I met all three of the Chris, Sean, and Luke. I didn't know that I met because I also met Jay Boozy. I met Carlo. I met all these people. Yep. No one said like I'm the owner of round 2. Like it was just a bunch of kids, and I was like, when I met, like as I got to know Sean, right, we're from close to each other, and right away I was like, yo, I'm from Virginia, like. All you motherfuckers moved out here together, and I was like, I just moved here too. Like I'm starting a company with my little brothers, you know, and like I was hyped, and I literally went back like 3 times in 10 days. I was like, you know, coming back, like checking shit out, like talking to these dudes. It was like the spot. Little kids are walking in. I was like, man, what a great place, because it didn't feel like, oh, like. You don't have shatter backboards on, like
that's one thing that I would say that I love about round 2, because it's like there's a space for everyone there. Like if you fuck with vintage shit, then like one of our homeboys is a prominent vintage seller in New York. He's from Brooklyn. We call him TSB, but his Instagram is hilarious. Whoever wants to cop it, we call him TSB because we call him a third shot bastard, because he emulates kind of like what ODB would be out of our group.
Yeah. Well, dude, So I went into that spot, and I then saw Sean and his girl Ashley at a thrift store, and then went to another thrift store, ran into him again, and I was like, wow, like you work at you work at that place around too. And he's like, yeah, man. He didn't say like I'm this
like
guy.
He's the owner. Yeah,
he was just like, because he was at the time. I didn't even know anyone's Instagram. I didn't even know Round Two. I didn't know anything. But the thing is, I went back like the second week. I went back. I was like, man, hey man, you know what? I have an idea. I'll buy you some beanbag chairs. Like, we should throw some beanbag chairs in here so kids, like, I got some magazines. Let's put magazine racks in here, and like, let's let the young kids like sit in here in beanbag chairs and like read the magazines. He was like,
it takes it back to that time.
He was like, man, that's a good idea. I don't know about that. Like, but it's like, but I mean, and that's he ended up opening the gallery. He does like Sean. I give him a lot of credit because Sean and Chris and Luke, they try everything. Like they'll try if the gallery doesn't, you know, if it doesn't work out or if it loses money, they still try. Like they're using their own capital. They're not out there like getting bank loans and stuff like that. No shade to that, but they're like, these kids are like really like trying, like just trying anything. And I think what I was gonna say is like, I think all of those different.
Bags, though?
No, they didn't. No, bro. Like but the thing is, man, like that's my dream. Like, by the way, we can talk. Like maybe someone else will do it. And like if you went, like it's crazy because like there's certain places that I've gone in my life, and like if you meet me, I'm not like a real. I'll give the kids that work around me my own personal things more like I like to see people excited about things like I'm fortunate because I've just been working and stuff all the time, and I know all these random people, and it's like it's the same thing whether it's Chinatown or Pleasures or Round Two or any of these. I know Teddy, I know Ron, like everyone goes way back. And the thing is, I think personally that like the way that, you know, as this transforms and whatever it becomes, high fashion, streetwear, menswear, streetwear, whatever you call it, I think the thing that really carries it through is these conversations when you're whatever age you guys are. You're probably in your 20s.
Yeah, we're in 20s, yeah.
And you're in a shop and you're in a spot. And your boy owns a spot, or your friend or someone like that, and a little kid comes in and he's got some Vans on, or like maybe he's got the what is it called, the Uniqlo Cause shirt on.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, I got the Uniqlo Cause shirt and like some cut off, cargo shorts and like some Vans. Maybe he's got a cool hat. Maybe he got a Supreme hat or something like that. When you're like, hey man, like what's good, like
cool hat.
Yeah, that's what I tell brands. I'm like, we grew up. If you had the socks and the hat, you were down. You would have a band shirt on. You would have a plain white tee and some cut off cargo shorts. If you had the socks and the hat, pair of Vans or a pair of Dunks, you were like, you're good. In. You know, yeah, it's like good, yeah. You're that. I mean, that's Pharrell in 2001. You know, like
you're talking about the person that inspired both of us to be what we are now. Pharrell is like the messiah to us. Like Pharrell was the person to me that brought all this like Nego Bape stuff and skateboarding into the forefront, and like showing you that I can still be who I am in this lifestyle of rappers, where it's just like, you know, where you have Hove or where you had DMX or where you had Nas at that time. He doesn't fit into that spectrum at all. Like he got his shit popping with Nori, and then like comparing Nori, who's from Left Rack City, to Pharrell, who's from Virginia. Like, and you have a band and you worked with Teddy Riley and you wore tight shirts and stuff like that at a time when niggas was wearing mad baggy shit. Like, that shows me that you could be who you want to be from the beginning. Like, we was listening to NERD really early on. Nobody from my neighborhood was listening to NERD.
Yeah, I mean, the Pharrell thing is really inspiring, I think, to a lot of people too. Like Pharrell and Lupe, I think, are
shout
people
out to Lupe, the God.
Of course. But I think Pharrell and Lupe, and I think there's more. I'm not trying to single those two people out, but I think Pharrell and Lupe were people that came out and were, like Pharrell was like Pharrell was like a band nerd, you know, and I think that, like,
that's exactly what he was.
I think, and Lupe, you know, who I know really well, his father was like, Lupe was like, yeah, my dad had like army surplus stores, and like his parents had him studying martial arts, and like he was a disciplined guy, you know. Pharrell was a band kid. He was a disciplined guy, and I think it's cool, you know. The exciting thing about all this, and like, again, like what you guys are doing is like, I think kids of all kinds of income levels, like, this is the thing that, like, I didn't learn at school. I was a terrible student. I did fortunately get myself into a college, and I paid for it, and I did finally pay it off, and it's a huge thing. It's crazy to put yourself through school. Yeah, but I'll tell you, like, you can be from anywhere. This is the equalizer, my friend. This is it. Yep. Music, fashion, culture, this is the equalizer. What you know makes you the most powerful person in the room. Mm-hmm. No amount of money, like you look at people like what, you know, I don't know how kosher it is to talk about Kanye or you talk about,
go ahead, talk about Kanye all you want. It don't matter to me.
The thing about Kanye is, I will say this.
You can't erase what he's done.
I won't talk about Kanye though. I'll talk about the people that he hires.
Yeah.
And he goes and gets people, or Travis, you know, like, this is something I was talking about with Slade too. Travis, he's got Easy. You know, Easy from Chicago, Easy October. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's got Easy
from like Infinite Archives.
All of these people. You look at Kanye, Virgil, Ivan, you know, Don C. Like, all of these people have a brain trust, and I personally love talking to you guys like you, and I'll talk all day long, because that's all I ever wanted to be. I love my brothers. They're my little brothers. We're like we're best friends. We do everything together. I always wanted them to be what they were, and I always wanted to be the brain trust. Mm-hmm. And we knew our roles, and we knew, you're going to go out there and be on stage, and you're going to do that, and I'm going to do this thing, and you have to have those parts. And I think today, right now, you look at people and you're like, wow, like, the people that are like, I love back to Pharrell. I love what he does, because he lifts up, you know, Cactus Plant is around him, or like, you know,
Cynthia,
Nigo with
who
Verdi.
used to work for him,
Nigo with Verdi, like, there's a phrase that I always say to people. I always say, have a mentor, be a mentor, because the thing about it is, you don't have to be the biggest dog in the room, and you also don't have to be the little. It's like, if you stay in the middle, if you have a mentor and you be a mentor, you're never gonna feel like everybody. That's an important place to be, because you can be like, oh shit, I need to talk to my OG.
Yeah,
and then
there's always OGs you need to talk to.
Yeah, and in a moment when you learn, like, you guys are someone's OG, and then you also have someone that you look to. Yeah. And I think that it's very important, regardless of what culture you come from, what financial background you have. I think when you say that, like, I've worked with so many. I've had so many mentors that have come from different places, and I mean, it's crazy, because I come from, you know, a different, like, a nothing financial background, and I definitely will not turn away from the fact that I'm privileged. I'm a white guy, you know. Like, I think the conversations that we have to have right now are a lot about what are we doing as a community, because for a long time, and that's another thing that excites me about what's going on in this whole thing, is like, you look at all these streetwear brands, and respect to Eric Brunetti, respect to Fresh Jive, respect to all the different ones. But it's like, until you had FUBU, until you had these other brands that were like kind of sectioned off into being like urban brands, and that's bullshit. FUBU is a streetwear brand. Like, all these brands are streetwear brands, you know? Yeah. It's like all this shit. So, but it's exciting now, because I think, for me, I think that, like, you have people like Kirby, you have people like, you know, Kirby at Pierre Moss. Yeah. You have people like Salehi. You have people like Virgil. You have all these people, and they're bringing a wave of people. The Josh Madden, like, they're bringing a wave of people behind them. You got Paisa Boys. You got, I mean,
there's so many of them. So many of them.
So many different things, and it's Blasey, you know, who was at Chinatown Market and went on, just doing his own thing.
Angelo from Awake.
Angelo, everybody, and it's amazing. And I think what we have to do is, I think, and I'm saying I'm a guy that's just studied all this from. I stayed the constant student of all these people, and I'm a fan of. I've known Brian Purcell since 2004. All these people, I meet them, and I'm like, yo, what you're doing is amazing. How can I help? How can I try to support in every way that I can, and I think that it's exciting time because I don't think when I used to go to trade shows in the year 2000, I went to my first trade show, and it was like Sean John is over here, Fat Farmer's over there. Ruka is over there. This is over there, and it's like, man, it's all together now. It's all together.
It's all together now. Yeah,
it's all together, and I think the history of people that came through it. I was telling Slay, I was like, when I first met Dao Yi, he was Diddy's assistant, or I wouldn't even say assistant. But he was like Diddy's right hand, and then he went on to do public school. And it's like, if anybody out there has stuck with it listening. I know I talk a lot, but if anybody out there has anybody that's stuck with this conversation, listen, do your research on who everybody is, and you'll find out, where Angelo came from, where Aaron, who did a New York thing, came from. Everybody was working in a place or working around it, and I was really fortunate for my parents who were. My dad wasn't really around. My mom was. My parents. My mom was like, "Yo, just if you're around the thing, you end up getting a job in the thing. Go sweep a floor. Go clean a bathroom. Go do anything. Don't. There's no thing too humble." And it's funny because I'll see people that do shit. I work on video sets. I worked on everything. I'll see people that kind of are like, "Yeah, I just do the catering," and I'm like, "Oh shit, what is it how long you been doing it? Yo, you should maybe have your own catering company one day." It's crazy because you gotta start somewhere, and I think there's no job. If I list off the jobs my brothers and I had, you would be you would laugh because it's just but the thing about it is everything that I do, and some of the jobs that I have that have looked kind of glamorous have been for very little money, super humble money. But the
title sounds better than what it should be paid.
100%, 100%. But I did it because I was like, yo, and I'm lucky because the person that my partner who became my girlfriend that became my wife and is my partner in everything I do and is now the mother of my daughter and ride or die. There were certain shit that I was doing, and I would be like, man, my friends would be like, what are you doing? You're spending money making a video for World's Fair, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I like World's Fair. Do you manage World's Fair? No, I don't manage them. They're my friends, and I know them, and I just think I think they're dope. I think something's gonna happen. I think they're dope.
It's a feeling that you get.
Certain things. My wife, I was like, yo, I'm trying to get together $1,000 to make a World's Fair video or this, and my wife would be like, oh, that's cool. She was my girlfriend at the time, but she was super supportive. She wasn't like, what's the plan? Are you going to manage? She was just like, wow, you can do it. And from there, I had worked on MTV music videos. But I was like, I think I could learn how to produce music videos. I think I could, and I got together and I did it. And it's the only way you're going to learn how to do things is I was talking to an artist that I love. His name is Jay Howell. He's super poppin'. And he still makes zines. He still makes 500 zines, cuts them, makes them at Kinko's, uses a copy machine, makes zines, and hands them out to people. And I'm like, you sell art. You sell art that people buy for thousands of dollars, and you also walk around in public and hand out zines, people that don't know who you are, kids that are like, oh, Jay Howell, I like your art. He's like, here, have a zine. If you love what you do, you're going to do it every day. You're going to play guitar, whether you're on stage at the MTV Music Awards or you're just around, and that's the thing I think that we got to talk about as creatives and as we're super fortunate because now we all can pick someone that we look up to. You might look up to, Sean, you might look up to Josh, you might look up to Aaron Levant, who started Network. You might look up to, Takashi Murakami. You might look up to Pharrell.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, what you gotta know is you get to be your own Pharrell to somebody else. You know,
Exactly.
and that's super important because, like, I'm inspired. You know, the cool thing about like a sneaker or a song or like a shirt, you know, like you like pint, you like it gives you energy. Like you'll get up and work your ass off to get this sneaker. But what if? And I mean, you'll get it. I love sneakers. I love art. I love music. I love all the culture aspects. But like when you get your own thing, like you have your podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might not pay. You're not Bodega Boys right now, but who's to say you're not gonna be? You know, you might. You're headed that way. You got 11 seasons, and the thing about it is when you get your thing with your friends, you know, your 3 or 4 friends, your 5 friends, your 6 friends, and you're like, yo, this is what we're gonna do. Girls, guys, whatever it is, like we're gonna do this thing. You invest in your shit and you get energy from your shit, and before you are now those guys at round 2 that everybody knows, the 3 of them or the whatever, the 5 of them, the 6, like whoever's there. Like before you're a gang of people that people, you know, Kanye's tribe or Jay's tribe, like with all of its little tribes of people like doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
Before you're that, you're just 4 or 5 guys riding around in a fucking Sentra or
with a dream,
you know, a Civic, you know, like rolling around. Like, man, like that's why shit like 8 Mile is real, because you're just like you're just like that's so real because it's so fucking real. Like you're like there's always Cheddar Bob, there's always this guy who's like, my cousin works at this place, you know, like that's
it's just
real.
a friend group, man. That's all it is.
It's super special, and the thing I try to tell people is like, my brothers and I, we've definitely been through it. Luckily we're related. We have a few other people. We have our VP that works with us. We have like 15 people that work at one company. We have 20 people that work at another company. We're super fortunate to like hire people now and bring people in and kind of give them this sort of ethos. The ethos is the most important because we're gonna make real things happen. Yeah. We're all gonna you're gonna make a living. You're gonna make a living. You're gonna be great. But the ethos and who you work with is very important, because if you have the same idea and you're going for the same thing and you're together, exactly. And you know, like again, like you look at 8 Mile and you're like, yo, y'all need to get your shit together. Like you shouldn't be banging each other's girls and stuff like that. Like you need to like get on the same page. Yeah. The thing is like your friends and your group. I don't care if it's like you're like what the mix is: guys, girls, gay, straight, tall, skinny, old, young. Yeah. You get a group of people together and they're dedicated to it, and that's why I will plug the brand that I work for one time.
Go ahead.
This whole thing. So I work for X Large, and I sat when I got into the fold with them. I was like, I want to go sit with the dude who started everything. This guy Eli. Mm-hmm. And I emailed him and I was like, man, can I just buy you lunch? We had a 2-hour lunch, and I was like, can I just buy you lunch? And I told him, I was like, look, I grew up in the middle of nowhere. I loved skateboarding. I loved all the music. You know, I love everything. I lived in magazines because it wasn't where we didn't have cable TV. There was no computers. We just got magazines, and the magazines were what told you everything. And the liner notes of records. You look at a Tribe record, and you sort of see who everybody is. You look at a Beastie Boys record, you get like everybody was putting everybody else on. But I said the thing I like most about X Large, and the thing I like about quote unquote streetwear is I could skate a little bit. I'm okay, you know, I can handle myself. But I wasn't a star athlete. I do, you know, you can play basketball, you can play soccer, you can play what. I wasn't a star athlete. I wasn't an amazing skater. I wasn't this. I wasn't that. But the thing about the whole quote unquote streetwear thing was like, you didn't, for X Large or even fucked another brand, you didn't have to like be that. Like they were based in like, yeah, like Mike D and the Beastie Boys played some basketball. They skated around. Jason Lee was a skater. Spike Jonze took photographs and made video. All of the crew did different things. And like I was like, you know why I love that brand? Because it was a low barrier of entry. You could go to, like, if you made it to the store, people weren't looking at your board when you walked in being like, oh, what kind of skateboard you got? Yeah, and that's the thing for me. Like, I'm really happy for where, I mean, I know huge brands co-opt, huge companies and huge things co-opt things, but I mean, that's just part of the thing. You know, you're going to see a Gatorade commercial where there's someone like streetwear, Gatorade.
It comes a time where you have to make some money from it, at least, where it's just like, okay, this is my passion project. Now I've been working it for so long, but I need something to accumulate from this, so possibly I can take it somewhere else. Like what you're talking about to me is like the same reason why we like the brand Emilion Dior so much, and what Teddy's doing is because it brings like a familiarity of like how things were like early 2000s with like skate shops and stuff like that when everything was around. Where it's more of like a community. Like you could go sit in front of Emilion Dior, get a coffee from the cafe, cop some shit if you want. If you don't, they don't really look at you like with a stink eye of like, you niggas just came in here just to look at shit and not really to buy anything. Like, it's still cool shit. Like, to me, that is really dope to me, because like from what we see now is that everything that is high end is just being ripped from streetwear now.
It's 100%, and the thing about it is, I will say, like, there's kids that DM me. We're about to, we don't sell stickers, and I was like, the new tag. This is like just low key, like a little thing. Like all the tags on the shirts are just tags, and I was like, when I was growing up in the '90s, all the tags were stickers. It was like
BBC.
Like, it had a little perforated thing, and you would pull it off. Like when you buy a pair of Vans, and there's a Vans sticker. Yeah. And I was like, I want all of these.
Anymore, unfortunately.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that, man.
I didn't either.
I want everything that we have. I was like, I want to make a couple different stickers because we don't sell them, and I don't really know. I mean, maybe you can sell them if they're like, a high quality sticker or something like that, But I was like, and we just went out and bought I was like, go buy $100 in stamps, go get envelopes, and we're gonna put it on the Instagram. Like anybody that DMs us the address, we're going to send out stamps to save the post office and, try to do our part. But what I have to tell you also, for anyone that listens, anyone that's younger, anyone that's older, the energy of a brand doesn't just come from people that buy the brand. The energy, if there's kids out there, like I was telling everyone at X Large, I was like, yo, I need 50 hats and I need like 50 pairs of socks, and I just want to have them in my car. And when I see, like, if I can give that, if there's kids that are like, oh yeah, like I like X Large, like I'll give them stickers, I'll give them hats, I'll give them socks. Like to me, if you're out there and you're skating or you're like doing what you do, you're making music, you're an artist, you're bro working. I worked at, man, I think I've had 40 jobs. I know my brothers have definitely had close to 100 because they got fired all the time. Like when you're coming up, you get fired all the time because you're like, I need this Saturday off. Like we're gonna open for this band.
And we're gonna do something.
Your boss is like, you're gonna have Saturday off, and you're like, okay, I have to quit because I'm trying to make it in my band. We'll just play this show and then we'll get another job next week. But the thing is, like,
you're making me feel good about my job history.
The energy. Look, man. By the way, I am not. If look, there are people out there that manage a Jamba Juice, and that's not a bad managing a Starbucks, managing a Jamba Juice. If you sell used cars, like we gotta understand, bro. We gotta talk about this, okay? Give me a second. We gotta talk about this. Not everybody can afford to go buy a bottle at a club. No. Not everybody can afford, like I'm working on a collaboration right now with a huge sneaker brand, and I said, can we put one bugaboo in this thing? Can we make the collaboration close to the regular cost of the shoe? And they were like, really? And I was like, yeah, I don't think our brand is going to make money on the collaboration, but it's a huge look. It's a huge sneaker brand. It's a huge shoe. It'll hopefully, if everything goes right, 2020. But I was like, can we keep this like $5 more than the rate? Because I was like, I love what you do with this. I love what you do with this brand. I love what you do. But I was like, I really, really want people to learn about this, to learn about this brand, and to learn about X Large and X Girl. And I think kids are going to, both of them are getting a lot of attention right now. And I really want, for what I'm doing, I want the barrier of entry to be super low. And the thing about it is, not everybody can afford. Not everybody is like, look, respect to everybody that has a high paying job and drives the car they drive. But you might drive. Look, you might drive your car payment might be $150 a month, $200 a month, and you might be a manager of a Starbucks, and you're still in the fucking culture. You're still supporting it. You're still going out and you're still going out and copying things, whatever. Like you're still trying to get like a Virgil rug from IKEA. You're still look. I think you should have the life. I think you should have the life that you want. I think the conversation has to be, and that's like, I don't own, that's what I'm saying. Like, Mike from Chinatown was the first person to support. We started MDDN. We were making music videos for artists that were unsigned. Joel was like, here's $1,000, go make a music video. And I was like, Mike just started Chinatown. And I'm like, Mike, I got to make a music video. I need clothes for 3 dudes. And he'd be like, well, oh, sure, man. I'm like, you don't know of them yet. They're going to be, it's going to be popping, this. And he was like, yeah, bet. Like I was like, I'm not greedy. I'll take like 6 pieces of clothing. And we always bounce them back. I'll tell you right now, everything my friends that own brands, this is like dead ass going to be funny, but like everything my friends that own brands give me, I leave, even if I wear it, I leave the tag in it because there's no telling. Artist is going to be like, yo, we gotta we work with all of our managers are like, yo, so and so's in town this week. They're shooting a video. You got any fits? And I'm like, let me put a rack together, and I'll take clothes out of my own closet with the tag on it, the Chinatown jacket or this, and I'll be like, oh shit, they're close to my size. I'll throw it on a rack. I'll have 2 racks of clothes, and the artist will come in and they'll be like, oh, tight, and they'll take. Sometimes it happens pretty frequently that someone will take, and I'll be like, oh, I wore that jacket like 2 times. Like, it's going to a better home. It's going on the front of a magazine. It's going in a music video. Like, I'm not on hella seating lists. And I'm telling you right now, what I'm trying to tell everyone that's listening, and you guys yourselves, like, you don't, like, look, I will buy things and support my friends' companies. I believe that we all have a place in the culture, but I don't think that, like, everybody has to own everything, I don't think, I think we should be, I think we have to teach smart consumption. I think we have to I think there's people out there right now that like are confusing happiness with having, and I think like bro, I love that's why I love what Sean's doing, and I love Pharrell, and I love people that are putting out messages. I love Vashti's an old friend of mine. Like I love people that put out messages like, you don't have to be a vegan. That's cool. Like you don't have to go hiking. You don't have to be skinny or tall or this or that or
just be you.
Like you just be you. But I will say, don't sit at home feeling like you're alone and disconnected. Like reach out. And I know that sounds super like helpliney and like I might sound, however I sound, but like look, like if you there, I guarantee you're gonna hit someone up and they're gonna be like, yeah, damn, like it's not like I have lots of cool shit and I give it away. I'll tell you what, the only thing that feels better than getting cool shit is me putting it on someone and seeing it in a magazine. There's so many ill things that I had where I'm like, damn, this is a fucking piece. And I'm not against anybody, like collectors and like everybody who's dope, like, yo, they're dope. Like I love all these people. What I'm trying to teach the younger generation is like, yo, don't
value
compete,
material
like,
things.
Don't like look, value it for the energy of, like if I get a hold like Sean's like, yo, I might have an extra pair of these Adidas? Friends and family show. I'm like, oh, bet. Like I might have them, I might not. Like I don't care. Like I'm gonna be like, oh, flex. Like these are dope. But the thing about it is like, it's the energy comes from, oh shit, seeing my I took Sean, like Sean talked about it on Jeff Staples' podcast. Someone hit me up that I know, and they were like, yo, Adrian, who runs Jordan Brand, he's opening a new store. Take some homies with you out to Santa Monica. And I hit up Sean and I was like, yo, do you want to go meet? I need you to meet this dude. He runs Jordan Brand. You gotta meet some Nike heads. And I took Sean and Ashley, and I was like, Adrian, you have to meet this kid. He's the biggest supporter of your brand, of Nike. He's the biggest supporter. Round two was not known, and it felt so good to see Sean, that relationship happen. It just, like, I'm telling you, like when you eat at a new restaurant and you're like, yo, guys, this is the spot.
Wait, before we get off that story, was that the connection for the Air Max 97 ones? Was that the connection that started that?
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, it's definitely where it started because he Nike it was 20. I want to say it was 2015.
Yeah.
Because it was 2015 because I moved out here and it was the end of 2015 because Nash wasn't born yet. They weren't pregnant with Nash. But Sean, by the way, Sean didn't. I'm not in any way I didn't do anything.
Oh no! I'm not saying that you made the credit. That was just the initial connection. You always need a connection for somebody to put you in a different space.
Well, I was
Nike definitely could have been already seeing what he was doing because what he was doing was dope shit. But the connection still needs to be made between that world and your world.
Well, I was working for an agency out of New York called Epiphany.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Coltrane Curtis. He's an amazing. He started an agency. He created influencer marketing before anybody knew what it was. He was the first person to give me a bike. You know, a company. He really look up Epiphany. Coltrane's an amazing guy. Coltrane and everybody that he started with, his wife Lisa, who's also his partner in the business. And I worked at an agency, and they put me on. They gave me sort of a voice to sort of bring in certain people. When I was in LA, when I moved to LA, I was working for Coltrane, and I was like, Coltrane, bro, I met these kids. Yo, this is the next wave. They all moved out from Virginia together. And, I'm telling you, there's different, like I was saying this, the only thing that feels better than going to your favorite restaurant is taking someone who's never been. When you take someone to John and Vinny's, you're like, yo, we're going to John and Vinny's. And they're like, what's that? And you're like, yo, we're going to John and Vinny's. You're gonna lose your shit. And you go and you order that. You're like, yo, you got to try this. You got to try. And your friend is like, I don't know, man. I don't really. You're like, don't worry, I got it. I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
Your friend, you watch them eat, and you're like, oh, they're like, oh shit, this is that work. You're like, oh damn, that's the only thing that feels better. You watch a movie, you're like, damn, this movie is funny as shit. You go to your boy's house, you're like, yo, you gotta watch this movie. Oh man, you already saw it? I'll watch it again, bro. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's fun putting people on.
Damn.
That's what it is.
That's the joy. That's the joy. And nobody uses this word because it's a church word, but that's the joy of this shit. That's the joy.
Yeah.
Straight up. Your aunt, your mom, and your aunt, and people all use the word. They're like, "Oh, you have the joy of the Lord." No, that joy is not. It doesn't have to do with church. The feeling of it is pure. Oh shit! When you take someone, when you do, you're like, "Yo, I got tickets to fucking see Cuddy. Yo, I got you a ticket." You're like, "Damn!" Your boy's like, "Oh shit! You got me a ticket." You go. You're like, "Yo, man, thank you for bringing me to this show. This shit is lit as hell." You know what I'm saying?
It's about sharing experiences. What's good of being successful about having somebody to share it with? That's the dope shit about it, is that you get to put people along from your neighborhood or from where you're from or your company to do some shit that's different. Not from
Deadass.
It's just different shit. Like we say all the time when we're talking about having the freedom to create the other day, because AB Dash just put out a book the other day. And it was just when we were just talking about the process of it, because we wanted to just know how to do something so later on we can perfect that to doing what we want to do. So he put out a book, and we've put out clothes and made candles and shit just for the people that listen to us and stuff like that. And we did the sticker things, and we put, and for free we gave matches with our logo and shit on it. It's just dope shit.
I was delivering that shit in the rain.
Hands on delivering.
Look. It's really, really, really hard to make a book. I've made a couple of them. We've made a couple of them. It's really, really hard. All this stuff is a labor of love. You get into it, and you start to see. I think, and I encourage. The thing about it is, here's the deal, and this is gonna blow your mind. Where we're at right now, culturally, as an American and global, where we're at right now, I'm the nerdiest guy you're ever going to meet. I'm very, very, very excited because making and doing are becoming cool again. I think it's really cool that everybody is bugging over Tekashi. I think it's really cool that people are bugging over the things Pharrell, or Jaden Smith makes. I think it's dope. But I think I gotta tell you, man, that's where we all came from. Everyone's like bugging off Modernica chairs and getting into Futura. Futura's like a longtime friend of mine, and Sky, his manager, is an amazing guy. But I'm telling you what, it's people love Josh Bida. Like I'm telling you, it's dope because you're getting to see another person, a man or a woman, try. And this is the craziest thing. You know what is crazy about watching someone play basketball, watching a Michael Jordan or a P-Rod or someone like that, whoever, is that here's the thing that's amazing about a human watching another human try. You're watching someone, and even if they fail, even if you're watching P-Rod skate in some kind of crazy competition and he fails, you're like, ooh, he almost got it. And he gets up and he pushes and then he makes it, and you're like, yeah.
You saw the trial and error.
It's the human spirit.
Yeah.
Trying in front of the world is a daunting task. Watching, you know why people love look, here's the fucking truth. We have earbuds, we have Apple Music, we have Spotify, we have Pandora, we have all this shit. Why would we ever leave our home to stand in a stadium to watch Drake or Migos or Eric Clapton or Katy Perry or anyone else perform a song? Because it's a human they're pretty lit. It's a human thing to see another person, anyone, big or small, 300 people in a room, coffee house, anything. It's a very powerful thing to see another human try in front of the world and miss a dunk or miss a basket and then make it. Miss a skate trick, try to make a chair, try to make a thing. That's why we watch documentaries. I would encourage I watch documentaries I watch 3 documentaries a week. While
we do too. You're speaking to the choir right now. We love live shows. We watch docs. We love streetwear shit. We love creating shit. Like, it's just a freedom of creating. It's like, that's like the most free you could ever be, is just create whatever the fuck you wanted to create that just comes up in your mind.
I was talking with my guy who runs Complex Con, and they're doing this virtual Complex Con this year. Mm-hmm. I think it was announced, so I'm not leaking anything. But I was telling him, I was like, look, my friend Dan does this thing called the Air Vegan. He's a vegan, and he's all about which Nikes are vegan and supporting people that make vegan shoes and shit like that. And then Sean does Sean's thing. Everybody knows about Sean. Yeah. Stella McCartney is kind of the OG. She with Adidas. Stella McCartney started making animal friendly
materials,
plant. And so Stella's the OG. Stella and Yoji Yamamoto were the first people that Adidas sort of like collaborated with in the way that they did.
Yeah, with Y3 and all that. Yeah.
Her and Yoji were the longest term. But Stella, I was like, yo, to my guy that does Complex, I was like, yo, get Stella, get Dan from the Air Vegan, get Sean Witherspoon, maybe one other person. I was like, I'll be glad to moderate. I'll probably talk too much though. But the thing is, like, these kinds of conversations, and to the conversation of like trying, like not everybody has to be. I don't rule out. This is the thing my brothers taught me, because we coming from nothing. It was like we were always like, rich kids, this, that. The thing about it is, like, there's rich kids out there that are trying just as hard. So we can't
do dope shit.
We can't rule out anybody because their mom is famous or they're rich or they're, we can't. We got to all get in a room. It can't, like, Jaden works his ass off. I'm not that anybody has anything to say, but like you can't look at Jaden and anyone else that's working their way, any of the guys in Charlotte's kind of bubbling right now. I'm really happy for those guys. Anybody from anywhere, like, we got to get in a room if we really love a hashtag culture. We really love something, whatever it is. We got to get in a room, and there's a couple things that I'm seeing now too. Working with X Large and working with X Girl, I'm seeing like, yo, I'll blow your minds right now. I mean, maybe not, but I started finding these skateboard companies that support trans skateboarders, and I was like, whoa, this is so amazing, because growing up skating, I never thought, like, how scary would it be if you were like a gay kid and you wanted to skate, and there's all these dudes, like, how scary would it be, like, like, it's in the same thing in the hip hop music scene. It's like now people are out and they're like, and I'm like so happy, like, that's not my life and that's not me, but I'm happy that it's there, and I fight for the justice for everybody because it makes the conversation like so much better. It makes it
helps everything grow if you let everybody be in it.
If everybody's not able to have I'm saying we have plenty of complaints about pop culture leaning one way or the other, and the only reason pop culture or political things lean one way or the other is because everybody hasn't been given a voice. And I'm like, look, if you want to start I don't consider starting a podcast as a podcast alone. I say you're a media. You guys are a media You're making books and you got a podcast. You make a zine. You're making media. You're making a platform for people, and I'm grateful and indebted to you for letting me come on your platform, and I respect your platform. It's for me, I just think it's crazy because I think the next generation, you guys are in your 20s, it's crazy because I'm old enough to be your dad, but I feel like I feel like we're on the same. I feel like we're in the same spot,
Yeah,
I feel like we listen to the same music.
When I dead ass, when I'm not. I'm also I also suffer a little bit because I'm stuck being a teenager because I think that's another thing, and I openly talk about it.
That's a great place to be stuck in, though.
Anybody who's out there suffering, anybody who's going through a time, whether you have a rough family life, whether you have a health issue. Some people have a great mom and great dad and have a health issue. Some people don't there's all kinds of things going on in the world. The thing we got to do is this is a place, I'm excited for what's going on with quote unquote streetwear because the first company to ever use streetwear in their brand name was Vision Streetwear, which is kind of not really strong or around right now. But all of these brands, that sort of people saw and they were someone saw Fucked and they were like, oh, I could do something like Fucked, or someone saw X Large. For me, since I started working with X Large a year and a half ago, the first thing I was like, yo, I want to be in the Instagram. And now this is going to kill the DMs, but I was like, I want to look at the DMs and I want to see there's kids hitting it up and they're I don't really care. I don't really care about followings. Respect to everybody who's dope and has a lot of people following them, but I think I'm looking at people's message because the message is, and I'm not saying anybody has to be a saint, but I'm saying the message is if you're someone that is doing something in your community and creating and letting other people come in and find themselves and find their place in things, you're good with me. And I've been that was when I met Vashti, and I will drop her name because she's someone that I think a lot of people don't really know.
She's super dope. We do for sure.
Love Vashti.
That's the queen. Bro, Vashti's the queen.
I think people see certain things. When I met her, we were at coffee shop in Union Square. My brother had met her in Japan. I think because Benj and Joel were really early on Bape too. They were 99, 2000 on Bape, and they had met her, and we were in coffee shop, and she was like, oh, and it turned out she lived across the street from me, on 10th Street, and I just, she had a boyfriend and everything like that. It was I was not trying to talk to her. I was like, oh, you're into the same shit I'm into. Yeah. She was making music. She borrowed my bike. One of the first things that ever I was like, oh, she's my friend now. She came and she was like, yo, you got a bike? And I was like, yeah. She was like, can I borrow it? I'm making it for making a video for this artist, and it was Kendrick. She was making one of his first videos. She hit me. She's like, I'm in LA. Do you know any kids with tattoos? I'm making a video for this kid, Justin Bieber. He's having a house party. They want some people with tattoos. I was like, yeah, I got a couple friends out there with tattoos. They're good dudes. They'll cooperate. But she was not caking off those videos, bro. She was literally making videos for unknown Crit. She's making videos for Solange. So she's making videos for people. And I was like, damn, you're like me. You're fucking with people not off of, oh, it's I would be like, hey, who's it for? And she'd be like, oh, Kendrick Lamar. I'm like, never heard of him. Exactly. I didn't know.
Now, yes, you would, but then you wouldn't have.
I did get my bike back. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course, I did. Yeah, it's crazy because we were in New York just making stuff. just like, and that's eventually when I went to Nylon and I went to Marvin, who founded Nylon. He's been a friend for a lot, kind of a mentor. And I was like, Marvin, can I work at your magazine? And he was like, well, soft spoken, amazing, wise guy. He's like, well, we don't have a lot of money, and we actually, we don't even have a position open. And I was like, man, just find some, like, just find some little bit of money so I can just like pay my rent, And I was like, I was literally hunting vintage clothes, flipping vintage clothes, and working at Nylon. So like, I was paying to have my job. I was literally paying to have my job. But what came out of it was the guy, and I told him, we were talking last week on the phone, and I was like, man, you're the one, everywhere we went, you sit front row. I had never been to Fashion Week. You sit front row, you'd be like, yeah, he's with me. And I would sit front row at fashion shows for shit I didn't even know what it was. And and he was like, what do you think of that? And I'd be like, I'll just give my honest opinion. I wasn't trained in a school. I was just like, I would wear that. Like, that I could utilize. Like, I'm a utility person. Like, if I can't utilize it, if it doesn't make some sense, like, I don't, it's not in my closet. I don't have anything that's like, plastic pajamas, like, I don't have
like unnecessary like that.
But by the way, that said, if people are making art, I went to so many I'll never forget early Jeremy Scott shows, early. I remember when I had seen Kanye, because I worked at a music venue in DC, and I had seen Kanye open for Talib Kweli, and he sort of got popping, and I went to this Jeremy Scott show, and they bring in this guy. He sits right in front of me, and I'm like, oh, that's that guy Kanye. And sitting next to him is Sarah from Colette, and sitting next to her, like, literally, I was sitting behind what would later become, a thing, like a whole culture. But it's like,
sure.
But it's like I got to sit and see this stuff, like, right. I got to be right there with it because of Marvin, and he didn't shortchange me. He just didn't. His magazine didn't even have a place for me, but I earned my place. I ended up doing a lot of shit there, like crazy stories, Yeah,
for the people who don't know what magazine you're talking about, what magazine are you talking about?
Nylon magazine.
Okay.
And Nylon and Nylon guys. And like, Nylon is crazy because I got the Nylon, and they gave me a Nylon email address, and they were like, yo, like, can you do this? Can you do that? There was a bunch of shit I knew how to do that I was like, I started helping them out with. I became like, the director of marketing for men's, and then I became like a director of marketing, and like, all that is like, basically, I was getting in 14, this teenager hit me up. He's like, I got a t-shirt line, and it's coming out, and like, and I was like, I'll be the first person I'll put you in the magazine. It was Shane Gonzalez from Midnight, and like, and in the same week, this little kid DM'd me, and he's like, yo, I'm modeling for this t-shirt line, like, put me in the magazine. It was Ian Connor, and it was like, I later met him at like I don't know, it's like some random fashion night out party, It's like, but it's like, for me, it's like, it's exciting because there's always a new, right now I'm a huge fan of Paisa Boys. I'm a huge fan of Museum of Peace and Quiet. I'm a huge fan of, like, there's this brand Praying that this kid Skylar's doing. Like, I'm a huge fan of, like, kids doing their thing, and like, I support it. I'll do anything I can to like get it on people and introduce them to the brand. And I just, like, I think we're all stewards, man. Like, the biggest thing I can say is, like, you're using your platform right now. I really appreciate it. I don't take it for granted. You will be, your own, whether you want to be Zane Lowe, or you want to be Howard Stern, or you want to be, Bodega Boys, like, you will keep doing your thing, and you will be that, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember those dudes, like, yo, they came up, like, but that's
Howard Stern would be pretty cool.
Yeah, bro, that would be super dope, to be honest.
It's dead ass. I swear to God, everyone I know is like that. I can drop names to you all day long. That's crude. That's like weird. But I can tell you stories that will blow your mind. And it's like, because my friends, I got a friend named Hollywood Holt. His name's Nigel. Lived with me for a while. Like, would come and crash at my apartment in the East Village. Every day I would come out I'd come out of the bedroom. I'd be like, "Yo, dog, what's up?" Like, he'd be up eating cereal on FaceTime with Santo Gold, fucking MIA, Mike Posner, and like these people were not even what they are now. And he'd be like, "Hey, say what's up to my boy Mike. He goes to Duke. He's in North Carolina." I'm like, "Hey man, what's up, Mike? I went to school in North Carolina too. What's up?" And he'd be like, "Hey, what's up? Good to meet you, Josh Madden." Like, and it's literally like the next time I saw him, he was like cooler than you, you know? And it's like, for me, it's like the most, it's exciting again though.
But he didn't have a nylon work email.
I didn't have, no, I didn't have, but I didn't, but the thing is, no, that's a good point. That's a good point though. All joking aside, I literally just put myself, this is another thing. I literally just put myself, and I'll tell you, people gave me a hard time. Kangol, the creative director at Kangol, the hat company, he hit me up, and he was like, "Yo, a friend of mine told me that you helped with his lookbook," and I was like, "Yeah." I had, even when I had no money, I was still collecting vintage T-shirts and like random. I was getting APC jeans like for like $12, and like I would just like collect every size APC jeans, and then people would be like, "Can you style this thing?" And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I got like 40 vintage T-shirts, some APCs, some like wild vintage sneakers that I collected," and I would just collect different. I would look at like a pair of a vintage Adidas, and then I'd be like, "Oh, they're $26 at this thrift store," and then I would look at my lunch money, and I'd be like, "Fuck it, like I'm eating $1 slice, and I'm gonna buy these size 10 Adidas that don't even fit me," like I'm a size like 8.5, 9, but I would just get it because I'm like, "Yo, these are a fucking lick. Like these are straight here. These are a lick, And then people would hit me and they'd be like, "Can you style this thing?" And I'd be like, "Bet, I can style it." Like we only have like $300, and I'm like, "That's cool." Like I'm making my money back on all the shit I bought. That's the way I fucking saw it, And the creative director at Kangol hit me, and a couple people hit me like that and had me style things. And they're like, "Yeah, we only have like $1,200," and I was like, that's like most of my rent, like that's what I'm gonna do, and that was before nylon. And the girl that was in the Kangol, I did like 4 seasons for them. That was Kim, who was in all the ASAP Rocky's videos. Skater Kim is like kind of a legend as well. But I met everybody. I met Brian
in an organic way. Yeah, exactly.
Like, dude, like Corey, who does vintage frames. Everybody I met, my friends are like, "Yo, I'm about to go get coffee with this guy. You want to go?" And I'm like, "Sure. Yeah, of course."
Okay, before we continue, let's get to like the background of how did you get into all of this, like from the bottom to the beginning. How did you get into like fashion, music, directing, DJing, being a director at Extra Large or working for Puma or stuff like that? How'd you get to this part of where you're at now?
It all started with The Cure.
I mean, I love The Cure. That's interesting. You're like kind of like a Nard. That's like a Nardwar. You're like Nardwar Jr. right now. I don't know if you guys like. I don't know if you guys
we fuck with Nardwar. Nardwar's hilarious.
Yeah. No, but I'll tell you what. The Cure was an interesting thing. There's a lot of stories about The Cure that tie into my life. Jose Canseco, The Cure. Like, there's like a bunch of shit that's like really in my background, and now like things that are tattooed on me, But I'll tell you this: there's a good Charlotte video called "The Anthem," and in the anthem, Joel's in a pool and he's wearing a bootleg Dapper Dan Fendi jacket. Mm-hmm. I bought that
Classic.
jacket.
That's super dope. That is super dope. That's a bar.
I bought that jacket. In PG County in a thrift store in Maryland. So when I got out of school, I basically went to school because I didn't know where to go, and it was just not good at home, right? Mm-hmm. So I found a school that accepted me, gave me a good pay us back later, deal, and I went there and I just worked 2 jobs. I worked 2 jobs and a job on campus. And I was different than everybody at my school. It was like lacrosse players and soccer players. And, by the way, I love it. I mean, that's where I learned about the Grateful Dead. That's where I learned about Dave Matthews Band. That's where I learned about a bunch of shit I did not know about, right? Because I was into I've always been into Ice Cube and I've always been into Minor Threat. And I just like those 2 things are like some of my favorite artists, because I love Ice Cube and Minor Threat because both of them are very. If you listen to Predator, my favorite Ice Cube record, you're going to hear political talk, and everybody needs to go listen to Predator right now, because that record makes no more sense that makes the most sense right now. That record, everybody should listen to Predator. Ice Cube's Predator, Minor Threat and Fugazi, the same thing. It's 2 artists talking about politics and people and like what we have to do. And I don't completely align with everybody's thinking, but I do feel the power and excitement, both Ice Cube and Minor Threat, Fugazi,
Yeah.
And what happened was I graduated, and my brothers are like, they started their band pretty much the year I went off. They started in 1996. I went off to college in 95. I never really came back. I came back just to kick it with them sometimes. Home was just not good.
For those who don't know, Josh's brothers are from the band Good Charlotte.
Good Charlotte, yeah. So Benj and Joel had moved out. They were 16 when they were 16, 17. They moved out, and they had their band for like 5 years, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Yo, we're signing a record deal." And I'm like, "What? Like that's crazy, And it's like I've been telling my friends, my brother's in a band. My brother's in a band. They play music. They're in a band. Like you tell all your friends. My friends are, rapper. My friend does art, whatever.
Yeah.
So I was in Maryland. I was working at a coffee shop, graduated, didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And I was literally doing what I always did in college, did it in high school. I was flipping shirts in high school. I was flipping shirts that I bought for, $15 for $35 in high school, like as a little kid. There was no internet.
Popping at that time.
Girl skateboards, different work shirts were always big, like work shirts with like the name on them.
Yeah, like mechanic shirts and shit.
Like like I was going out and I was finding like dope work shirts with like funny names on them, and then like a cool logo on the back. Work shirts, bowling shirts with like stitching, like chain stitching, like everything.
That's ironic because that shit was popping when I was growing up here, where we'd get our fathers who were like mechanics, like my father who he was a carpenter, so he would have a work shirt, and my homeboys whose fathers used to be mechanics and shit, we'd wear their shirts to school.
Bro, look at Naughty by Nature, look at Naughty by Nature, look at the Beastie Boys, look at anybody, everybody was wearing like work clothes. It was the 90s.
Exactly.
That's what it was. So the thing is, I was going and finding bowling shirts, work shirts. I would order from skate catalogs because there was no skate shops in our area. I would order, like, it was different back then. Like, you would order a black and white thumbnail, and it would be like navy, forest green, or burgundy. And like, what's your first choice? What's your second choice? Because by the time they got your cash or your check or whatever, it might be sold out. Yeah. So dead ass, I was just ordering, like, I was working at a pizza spot, and I was like, at 15, I got my first job, and I started doing that. And I had my clothes. It was crazy because in my closet, my clothes are all hung, like, bro, we were really poor. All my clothes were hung facing a direction, and I would come home, and Benj and Joel were younger, and something would be hung different. And I'd be like, man, did you wear this shirt today? It's hung up facing the wrong way. Like, like it was really, we would fight, but it was always so. What happened was when I graduated college, I was working at a little coffee shop, and I was driving there. They had a beat up Volkswagen, and they were like, "We're going off to make a record," and I was like, "Congratulations, guys!"
Wait, Josh, I hate to cut you off.
Yeah.
Did you see the movie Mid-90s?
Of course, yeah.
Do you
Congrats
relate
to Jonah
the older
Hill.
brother?
No, I wasn't. I was opposite. I was totally opposite. I was the opposite of that dude. Like I was the brother. Like my mom was always like, you are the best older brother, because if someone was like, here, you want a lollipop, I'd be like, can I get 2 more for my brothers? Like I had me a year later, my brothers are born. A year later, my sisters. There There was 4 kids in my family. We were all in high school at the same time. We were all in high school together. I drove my siblings. Like, when I got a job at the mall, it was like 45 minutes away. All my siblings were able to get a job at the mall because I would drive all of us to work. You know, like, we were like thick as thieves. Like, we were just together, and we were always, that's how they were listening to my music, and like they were like wearing my clothes. And that's how when the band got signed, I was over in PG County, and I was in this thrift store that I found. I was because there's no Google Maps. There's no fucking computer. There's no like this is like 99, 2000. Yeah. And I found this Dapper Dan Fendi suit. It was pants and a jacket, and it was $5.
That's
$5. It was crazy. $1. It was $1 in the right pocket. In the right pocket of the jacket, there was $1.
So you
I took the $1 out, and I saw Joel and Benj came back to DC for like a week, and they're like, "Yo, we're going to California." Like, when they got signed, I saw them like for 3 years. When they got signed, we only saw each other like for like a week at a time.
Or you didn't go with them at the time?
I would go with them like for like a week, and then I had to come home because we don't have money. Like I never took money from them. Like, they weren't like, "Oh yeah, we're signed. Here's like 50 racks." Like, it was not like that. Like, back then, you didn't get, like, when you got signed, your money didn't come for a long time. Like, now, if you go to a concert and you buy a T-shirt, you got like Venmo, you got PayPal, you got all this stuff. Like, you can walk away that night and shit's in your bank account. Like, the way it was back then, the merch company sold your merch. You would go on tour for like 2 tours and not get any. Like, that's why people would get like 400 racks like after being signed for like a year and a half. Mm-hmm. All your money came in at once because it was a different
That's
time.
Odd, yeah.
But like,
it's totally different.
But so I found that. Everything was wild. So everything was so different back then. But I found that jacket, and I saw Joel, and I was like, "Yo, check this out, man. You need to wear this. Like, you should wear this on stage." And like, that's what I was always like, "Hey man, take these shoes. Like, take this. Like, this is dope." I was customizing sneakers. I was customizing different things, and like, they would wear it. Like, Joel would be like, "Oh man, cool." And like, that jacket that I bought for $5, the next time I saw it, I didn't even have a TV. Mm-hmm. I was living in DC off Georgia Avenue, working at the 930 Club. I didn't even have hot water for a good 6 months because I couldn't pay my bills. I was showering at the club, and I was at my friend's house, and they're like, "Yo, your brother's new video is crazy." And I saw it, and I was like, "Holy shit, the jacket!" You know, like, I was like, the jacket, that he's wearing the jacket, and it became like they started kind of like being like, "Yo, we got a awards show. We're playing the MTV Awards. Like, can you like find some stuff? Like, find some." So
you basically became the stylist after a while.
Yeah, but there was no such thing as a stylist at the time. Definitely not like a dude. There was like movie stylist. There was not no dude. There was no like dude like,
there was no
"Hey, what's up, everybody?" Like, there was definitely no dude stylist like walking up on the scene. Like, there was like people at the magazine that like pulled, like, a stylist was someone at a magazine that pulled together clothes of people that were advertisers.
Yeah,
that's really what you don't know. Like, you're looking at like Vibe magazine or something like that, and you're like, "Oh, like, dope, like they're wearing this," but you don't realize that they're wearing Echo and there's an Echo ad. You know, because you would go to the photo shoot if you're whatever magazine, you go to the photo shoot and you're like, "Oh, you're here, like Brad Pitt, like here's a rack of clothing," and it's like, "Oh, it's Versace because they're advertising in GQ." You know,
exactly,
it's changed up a little bit. I think Matthew Henson, big shout out Matthew Henson, big shout out to like Easy, big shout out to everybody who's out there, sort of like being, I think, kind of what I was originally for them. And it's not like, by the way, Benj and Joel have like impeccable taste, and they both have like ridiculous closets. Like, their closets body, because they started going to Japan in like 99, 2000. So they were getting undercover. Joel has like crazy like number 9, like all that stuff. They were getting it before it was even expensive, like hot, you know? And like,
yeah, from the outside looking in, you wouldn't even think that. Saying it like at that time and too, like in the 90s and the 2000s, like a rock band being in the Bape, it doesn't really, really recklessly like that.
But they're in the book. I mean, you can look at the first.
Oh no, I've seen it. Yeah, but I'm saying like if looking from the outside looking in, you wouldn't think that like that would be like. It's kind of like a Billie Eilish thing. Like she's just a singer and like, but like a young white little girl. Like she's into the same shit everybody else is into.
Yeah, I mean, it's really about it's really about who you put in your brain trust and like
exactly.
your cabinet. You know, it's like it's the same thing. Like my brothers, like I'm the brother that I ended up studying business. I was an art kid. And I went to school in North Carolina, and I was like, I want to study art. And the people at the school were like, yo, you didn't read the brochure. We're not an art school. We're education and business. And I was like, I'm not going to teach art, respect to art teachers, but I'll do business. I'll figure out some kind of business thing. I studied econ, and I studied marketing. And then when I got out, here I am living in, you know, in the DMV, like, you know, working at a coffee shop. And then we started a brand. I'll try to speed up a little bit because we're going long. But we started a brand. The brand got really popping. I'll tell you this. Before Benj and Joel blew up, I was going to magazine stores in Georgetown. I would take the train. I'd go to these really dope magazine stores in Georgetown. I would take a pen and a paper, and I would look at the masthead of a magazine at who was the editorial, the fashion director. So when we started our brand, I took that home and I would send boxes to the fashion directors. There was I didn't have a computer till I was 24, and I couldn't afford one. I got my first Apple computer laptop when I was 24. So I was literally just going to magazines, and I was like going to Mass Appeal, Slam, Vibe, like any magazine that I was like, oh, like Trans World. I was like, our idea was like already the streetwear vibe. It wasn't like, oh, this is for this or Alternative Press or Double XL. It was like the same thing to me. By the way, Alternative Press and Double XL are the same fucking thing. It's just like they're the same fucking thing. It's the same motherfucking thing.
Exactly.
It's stupid. It's dope that they both exist, but like I love both magazines, and my biggest thing is like, yo, Double XL is pretty alternative for hip hop. And an Alternative Press is alternative for rock music. You know, it's not just, you know, Ozzy Osbourne and shit like that. It's other stuff too. Love to Ozzy, but you know, it's like I love Alternative Press because it's like when I used to look at it, it was like 9 Inch Nails, you know, like all kinds of crazy shit on there. But to the point, when we had this little brand, I started just I would look in the magazine masthead, I would get the address of the magazine, I'd be like, oh, that's the fashion director. And then I'll put together a little box, a hoodie, some socks, a hat, and I'd mail it to him. And it started going off. It started getting in all these magazines because people were just like, damn, like I think seeding wasn't a thing at the time. There was no such thing. Like it was just me, like brands. I don't think streetwear brands were like, I don't think anybody at a streetwear brand was like looking up a masthead and like sending it to some random, you know, style director at J14 or like, I was literally living in D.C., working at the 930 Club. My roommates would all go to work. In the morning, I would wake up, I would take a shower, and I would go and I would pull all the boxes out, and I would just make boxes. And I literally just, like, we had a little online store, and every bit of money that came in just went into making more, and no money got pulled out for like 3 years. Dead ass 3 years. By the time Good Charlotte popped, and the brand was big, their accountant who was handling our brand was like, yo, you guys have a bunch of money in the bank. You need to do what they call a disbursement. It's too much money. And I got 150 racks. So here I am, broke as fuck, and I get 150 racks, and I'm telling you guys like too much information right now. I owed my college. I owed my college 120 racks, right? For going to college. I took 120 racks and paid that college. I didn't have a bank account, motherfucker. I didn't have a bank account.
That's crazy.
I couldn't even get a bank account because I had no dental, I had no health care. I'm working at the 930 Club, which is an amazing job. I'm seeing like the craziest shows for 2 years. I'm working every night. Eating out of the dressing rooms. Like, I was the guy that cleaned up the dressing room at the end of the night. I'd be like, man, there's half a bag of bagels left in here. Like, oop, that's going with me. You know, I was like, I was seeing like I saw the most members of Wu-Tang Clan you're ever gonna see on one stage. I saw Taking Back Sunday on their first tour. I saw George Clinton. I saw saw Dolly Parton. I saw everyone because I worked load into load out. And at the time, now I'm hunting, when I can get to thrift stores and whatever, I'm hunting some here and there, trying to provide GC with what I got, and then we start this little brand. I'm doing this brand. I'm sending boxes out, and they're like, "Yo, you've been doing this brand for a couple of years. You got a disbursement." I'm like, "Whoa, I got a bank account. I paid my taxes. I had not paid taxes for years. I bought my fucking life."
You want us to cut that out?
We can cut that out if you want.
No, no, I'm good on taxes now. I'm great.
Okay, all right, fine.
Sure.
No, I took 120 racks and I paid back my college. And I took the other money, I paid back my taxes, which weren't crazy because I wasn't making that much money.
Yeah.
I was living off paper, fully living off paper, and I took the rest of the money and moved to New York. So I moved to New York. I didn't know anybody there except for my brother's manager, who was kind of a doofus. He's an old manager. And he had never managed a band before. He was the first band he ever managed, bless his heart. And I get a little studio apartment a block from where their office is, and he's like, "Yo, you can have this little space in here, and you can run the clothing brand out of this thing." And I did that for a while, and a lot of cool things happened with it. A big problem with it is we didn't even know at the time how to get a trademark. We never bought the trademark. We never did any of the shit you're supposed to do when you start a brand, And so it ended up like being it ended up being tough. It was a nightmare, It was like, everything that I ever made from that brand, and I love that brand, and I love my brothers for trusting me. They were like, Joel gave me the first $500. He was like, go make some hoodies and some T-shirts, and that $500 grew to be that brand. And when we shut the brand down, I had moved to New York, and I was already like DJing a little bit. A girl that I knew invited me to DJ. I had never DJ'd. I met in 2004. I met Steve Aoki. He was not Steve Aoki at the time. I mean, he was Steve Aoki, and he became a friend of my family. And I was like, from the minute I met him, I was like, "Bro, you're like the Green Day of DJing." Like I told him, I was like, "You're the Green Day of DJing, bro. You're going to be huge." And like, I just have stories from my New York time from that, like just being my friend Sarah, she discovered the Killers. I was hanging out with the Killers, and then they got signed. Like, there's just all these different things where, like, if you're in the scene, if you're around it, you just meet. It's like that spot in Atlanta, Wish, where people are like, yeah, everybody came from Wish,
Yeah, like, Wish, like Frank Cook and everybody came out there.
Trinidad James, like everybody worked at Wish or was around Wish. Like, it's like those things. I've never even been to Wish, but shout out to Wish.
I've been to Wish before. Shout out to Wish.
Those, like those spots that become hubs. Mm-hmm. That's my dream. Like you ask about, did they ever get the beanbags? Like, that's my dream, is to have a spot where people come, where
and just chill.
Kids can. Yeah, so no, that's what I'm saying. When you ask about, like, did they get the beanbag? Like, my dream is, we kind of have that now. We have a compound here in Burbank where, like, we have recording studios, all kinds of stuff. Like, everybody's been through here. Lots of people worked here. It's a legendary space. We bought it. My brothers and I bought it, and we're kind of like building all of our companies out of this compound. But like, my thing that I'm trying to talk about, I guess, is like, when you go, I was broke in New York, man. I was broke with a capital B, man. Like, I was so broke. But I literally, like, I crashed on my friend Sarah's couch for a while. I lived here. I had a studio. Then when we ended the brand, I was like, I think I walked with like 20 racks or something, like 15 racks. Yeah. I went and like made that last for a little while. I was DJing. That didn't make any money. We were DJing like for like $200, kind of thing. Yeah. And like, I started the styling thing happen because I've always collected. I'm a pack rat. I definitely am OCD, and I collect things. And like, I've always found shit. I bought a Nirvana T-shirt at Beacon's Closet for $17 and flipped it for $500.
Basically, exactly what it is now.
Yeah, no, but I bought that T-shirt in like '07 maybe. It was a bootleg Nirvana T-shirt, and then like my daughter was born, and I loved it, and but my daughter was born, and I was like, yeah, it's time to like, I gotta let this go, and like people like I have like 8 or 9 racks of clothes right now that are all like 90s skate clothes, band tees, whatever, like everything I've ever had. That's another thing for anybody that's listened this far. Everything I've ever had, I've had at least twice. I had it, I sold it,
and got it again.
I loved it, I got it again.
Usually that's how it works, though. To be honest,
dead ass.
It'll come back.
Like you keep everything clean because you're like, oh, if I gotta flip these, it's like. And by the way, I'm not about like flexing, taking advantage of people, trying to rip people off. Like my whole thing has always been like I've never people I'm shouting out, like I don't want anything from them. I'm not trying to be like even going hiking with Slay. I told him, I was like, I'm not on any seating list. I'm not trying to get any shoes. I'm like, I'll buy shoes. I'll do whatever. But what I want from people is connectivity and like friendship. And like, I know right now that if I call anyone in my phone, they'll pick up in 3 rings. That's the sign right there. If you keep good relationships, if people know when the phone rings, I'm bringing opportunity or money or good friendship or whatever it is. Like, I'm not calling to be like, hey man, like, like fuck that. Like, if I'm calling you, like something's up, like you're
exactly. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like relationships can take you a lot further than anything else can.
Dead ass. And I told, I was telling someone the other day, the reason that we do management now is because Benj and Joel, we're all older, we're all over 40, and it's like, yo, it's not my time to be in the spotlight. Like they're not trying to be. We manage 15, 16 different bands, artists. It's all different people. Nothing we manage is anything like anything else. It's Anti-Flag, Bishop Briggs, K-Camp, Cookie Kauai, Water Parks, Chase Atlantic. It's all different. Everything is different from the other thing. None of the things are like the other thing. And they're not trying to be on records or be, whatever. Like we have the experience, which is very expensive. You think we never got took? You think we never got like, oh shit, like, oh damn, like, fuck, like, okay.
So talk about some of those experiences about like early on artist or like early on as a stylist or as a writer about how you can watch out for the bullshit that companies will try to get you with, whether that be contracts or whether that be with verbiage that you're not familiar with.
I think you just have to be. It's dangerous to talk about like I definitely have enough situations on my own that I can talk about, but I will say this. And again though, brands aren't evil. This that. I think people are. I think people are scared. I think if you do a project with your boy or your homie or some friends, and you find out after the fact that you got $500 and everybody else took this other much, like, and you're like, damn, I didn't. You're like, oh, like. Look, let me just tell you, for anybody that ever had that situation happen, you do something and the partnership is weird, that shit is fear-based. Anybody that rips you off, I'm not even saying that they're an evil motherfucker. They are afraid. They're afraid anytime anybody's like I share ideas openly, and I've seen them I've seen them literally people got brands where it's like, I remember talking about that idea. Yeah. I remember talking with my boy being like, yo, you know what would be cool? You know what really needs to do? And like then they're like, oh yeah, and like you see it a year later and you're like, oh damn, that was my idea. Oh shit, okay. Like that's interesting, That's shit, not sharing with people and not being like, hey man, we're about to make this thing, like, do we need to cut you in? Like my answer most of the time would be like, nah, bro, like thanks for the call. I'm really excited. Can you give me one? Like, but people that don't cut you in, they're fucking scared. They're scared that they're scared they're not going to have good ideas. They're like, I'm not scared. I have like stupid ideas every day.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's why like the creative director thing is a really interesting title, because you're not really like this like like designer, like not
Exactly,
like angels, like not like angel, like the door flies open and angels and like you're in the clouds and you got a halo and all of a sudden you're this like, dude, you're actually really a problem solver. Like you're actually really like, people are like, yeah, we have to do this thing. Like, how can we, like, what's something interesting? What's something like you're a problem. The creative director thing was like really, it's like everybody wanted to be a DJ. Now everybody's being creative directors. And I'm not shitting on that, by the way. It's an amazing job. It's really hard. It's really, really hard because you have to have the answers for like campaigns, products.
It's
like,
more of a directing of vision than you basically being hands-on. That's kind of like, you can kind of speak to that light more of like, where a person might think that just because Virgil is the creative director of Louis Vuitton, that everything that is made and comes out of that is him.
Bro, you don't know, and I'm not speaking for Virgil, but like, you don't know, like, they could be like, Virgil, we really want white jackets. And he might be like, okay, what can I do with white jackets? Like, you don't know. Like, they might be like, oh, yeah, we're like, I don't think for a second, and by the way, maybe, I'm guessing Virgil does have a lot of control, or anyone else,
Yeah,
but the thing is, like, you can't imagine that Teddy or Angelo or any people that you mentioned, or the dude, what's his name from Noah, Brendan Battison, you can't imagine that somebody's just sitting there, eating a fucking Twizzler, looking at the fucking sky, and they just go, hey, I'm gonna make this thing. Like, it's really, some of it is intuition, some of it is inspiration, but like a lot of, when you see successful shit, you're like, oh, like people are like, oh, you know what the world needs right now? The world needs this. This is what will really do good in the world, And shit that, by the way, shit that's silly and like not needed. Like, there's definitely cool shit that's silly, and like I have plenty of silly shit. But what I'm saying, like before, like, I love Jeremy Scott. I think Jeremy Scott is important. I think is necessary, and I just love him as a person. And he's a nice guy. He's a really nice guy. But he does silly stuff, and you're like, it's entertaining. And if you have the money to do, I don't think Jeremy Scott's out here telling anybody like, oh, bitch, if you don't buy my plastic cowboy hat, you're not cool. Yeah. Like, he's dope. Jeremy Scott is dope, and I think what he did with Swatch, and I think what he did with Adidas speaks for itself. He's done dope shit, and he's dope. I think the thing that, if you really want to see what's really gonna go, is like people that make things that are necessary, and people that, if you have a brand, people always ask me, they're like, hey, can you have advice? I'm like, I don't really have any advice. I don't know if I'm someone that people want advice from. I will say this as a person, I'm really buying what I need,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm really buying what I need, especially in these times. And I deliberately live a life. I believe in living like a life within my means, and live it like I live a very. I doubt you're going to see me very much like and be like, oh damn, he's flexing. Like, there's definitely flexes, but I'm not. That's not the point of the whole thing for me. The point of the whole thing is the conversation, and also like living. Like, I'm just a worker among workers.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy. I'm just like you. I'm just doing the same thing you're doing today. I got up at 6 a.m. with my daughter. I'm with her for a certain amount of time. Then I work, and I go home and I'm with her again. Then I'm up until about 1:30, 2 a.m.
Just researching shit.
Working with Japan. I work with Japan, and by the way, Sunday is Japan's Monday, so it's 6 days a week, 6 a.m. to 1:30 or 2 a.m. And it's not a bad life. It's an amazing life doing what I want to do. I continually research. My Instagram is a place like my stories. I'm just trying to put stuff out there. Some stuff I put out, and like I get like 100 DMs like, yo, what are those shoes? And I'm like, oh, these are just some rare ass old Adidas I found looking for something else, working on a project, looking. I share shit with the world.
Yeah,
I have to tell
as it should be.
I have to tell everybody, if you have an idea and you share it with some friends and someone does it, let it go, man. Because you're like, if you hold on to any one idea too tight, that's gonna be your last good idea.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, and we love to talk about Tinker, who's amazing. We love to talk about different designers. And you know what I see when I study those guys and girls and men and women? I see people that are just swimming in it, just living in the fucking life, I talk about, what I say about this thing is it's like surfing, right?
Yeah.
The best surfer in the world is whoever was the best surfer today. If you didn't surf today, You weren't the best surfer in the world today. If you did not get in the water and surf today, the guy who got in the water or the girl who got in the water and surfed today and caught the biggest wave, they were the best surfer in the world today. So that's what that's all about for me. The best in the world is the person who did it today.
That's a pretty
so
quote.
I'm trying to be the best. I don't know if I'm the best in the world. I try to be a nice guy. You know, I'm like anybody else. I don't know that I'm really nice. I try to be as nice to the world as I can. I try to be fair. We're nice guys. You know, we're moral people. We love our wives. We do our thing. But the thing is, man, all I'm trying to say is, like, for this conversation, for the kids coming up, for anybody who listens, I want them to hear, like, do the shit every day, whether you got I know people that have lawn service companies that do make crazy bank and work for crazy clients, and I'm just like, I think what's going on in the world right now, I think people have to understand, like, being one thing, you know, being 2 Chainz started the conversation. He said, "Rapper, go to the league." But, like, the thing about it is, like, that's an interesting conversation though, man, because we got out with the band, and it was like, what are you going to do? You're going to play baseball or football, or are you going to be in a band? Like, that was the only way out of the town.
Especially coming from a small town where, like, we don't have as much opportunities, especially in your time, where we don't have as much opportunities like in New York, where, like, you don't know a friend who's a designer. You don't know a friend who is an artist or a poet or who runs this, like, print shop or something like that. In a small town, it is harder to make it, and still in this day, but it's a lot easier than it was in your time.
Dead ass. And the thing, I was at a nine-line party in like 03, 04, and I don't think I was DJing. I was around all of it. I think I started DJing around that time, and I was sitting at a table with a bunch of kids that I knew, and a guy was sitting near us, and everybody was up, like, doing their thing. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do anything. And I was sitting there. I think I smoked cigarettes at the time. But I was, like, sitting there. It was, like, on a rooftop. It was a nylon party. It was popping his shit. And this guy's like, "Hey, man, what's up?" And I'm like, "Hey, good to meet you, man." And he's like, "Are you having fun? Like, this is cool?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is crazy, you know." And he was like, "Hey, I'm Marvin." And it was fucking the guy from Nylon. And he's like, "How do you know those kids?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's my friend Sarah. That's Lee. That's this person." And, like, he's like, "Oh, cool." He started talking to me, and he was like, "Oh, let's catch up." You know, like, he started talking to me about the culture, like fashion and stuff like that. And I knew because I continually was doing research about shit. And he's like, "Man, you really know your shit." He's like, "Yo, like, you want to come through and get lunch?" And I was like, "Sure." And I went and got lunch with him, like, a couple days later, and he just became like a guy that I'm talking just like I talk. This is how I talk all the time, every day, like, sharing everything. Just like, "Oh shit, you know what I found the other day? Pete this." Like, he's still my guy. He's still my mentor. He's still, like, my friend. And I still send him. I'm like, "Yo, peep this 100 gex. Peep this." Like, when we found Sheck West, I was like, "Yo, peep this Sheck." Like, Joel was the first person to find Sheck West. He was the first person to, like, fly him out. Joel found Sheck West. He flew him out. Sheck was recording at our studio. He's a homie. Like.
Shout out to Sheck West. AB Dash is a huge fan of Sheck West.
That's true.
Sheck's a good kid. Sheck's Joel and Benj. That's another thing. When they got on, they just started flying people. They were Rocky Fresh, MGK. They were flying mad people out before anybody knew who they were. And, like, yo, like, they rented a little studio, and they were just trying to, like, give people what they wish they had.
Yeah, an opportunity, a space where you don't have to, you know, like, spend a bunch of money at a studio and have an engineer and have all this. It's like it's given to you.
They had an engineer that they were like, this kid that they had engineering stuff. They were like, "Look, here's the deal. We rented this room. We got it. It was this little spot over off I think La Brea. It was this little room, and they were like, "Yo, you can use this for whatever you want. Whenever we have writing sessions, we're going to come here and we're going to use this room." Because they were songwriting. They wrote a bunch of songs for, like, a shit ton of other people. And they're like, "Whenever we have a writing session, we're going to come here. You engineer it. In exchange, you use this room for whatever you want. Record your friends, record other people, do whatever you want. But when we have a writing session, you're going to be the engineer." And he was here the other day. He's still a homie. That's 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago. But Joel and Ben started being like, "Yo, we're going to fly someone out. We're going to put them in a hotel for a week. and put them at like Sportsman's Lodge or some little cool spot like that, and then they can go in, and that Benji Joel don't have to be on the track, nothing. And that's just the way we did it. Like when I was doing the videos that I was doing in New York, I meet Marvin. At the time, I think I ended up working at Epic because the president of Epic met me through someone else, and he was like, "Yo, you're good with like new bands, like come help us with new bands." And I started helping with new bands. You know, like I started like different people that I work with there. My boy there was a guy named Andrew McGinnis. He now manages Diplo and A-Track and Flosstradamus and Dylan Francis. Like shout out to Teamwork Management, Nick Palmacci, Rene Brador, Andrew McGinnis. I met them at Epic, and it was like again just kids. They were a little bit younger than me, and we worked at Epic for a while. When I left Epic, I ended up kind of DJing for a minute. DJing got hot. I was DJing around the world. I was DJing fashion weeks. I was DJing in Paris and London and all over the world and doing all that shit.
Yeah.
And then when I was like, I don't think I'm gonna become a DJ. I don't think that's I saw what was happening with Steve, and I was like, yo, that's pretty crazy. But I wanted to like have a wife and get married, and like I wanted to like I also saw Benj and Joel. I was like, man, if I become a DJ, this is going to be like the next 5-10 years of my life. Like, and I was talking to Marvin one day, and I was like, yo, like, let me come work for you. Like, let me come be at Nylon. Like, I know about the clothing. I know about the music. I know about, I don't really know a lot about cars, but I know about the tech. I know about, and then I ended up working for both magazines, like just helping out with the Nylon tours, handling marketing, going to fashion weeks, like meeting all the new up and coming people. And like, I think Marvin just liked me because I was like, my judgment was like, yo, this kid's a hard worker.
Yeah.
Or this girl's like this, or that guy's like that. And like, I met like, everybody. And through that time I'd already known Vashti. So I met Shane, Shane Oliver and, all that crew.
Yeah.
For all, and I knew Julianne from when she opened V Files, because that was like around the corner, like Danielle Greco and all those kids, and all the kids that hung around, Kerwin, and all those kids that became like this Spaghetti Boys thing, like,
yeah.
And I just knew all of it from really early. I was just like, yo, like, I mean, from Mike the Ruler being like 12 years old, I was like, yo, that kid's on some shit, like he's definitely like knows his shit. Like, and it's interesting because it's like all these little, I would travel around, my friends, RSVP, different places. I would travel around and I would like hang with all these different people. And all I ever wanted to do was just support, like shine the light.
Yeah.
And
that's commendable to be honest, because there's not a lot of people in the industries of like now that would do it. Like how we connected, it was just a simple question that I was asking you on, like how to market something and grow it, because you were giving good advice on He's hiking like thing that he does on his IG, and then you were like, fuck it, let's talk about it on the podcast and like connect. And like now we give that point of view of everything that we're talking about, and everything that we want to do in this culture, to give it to everyone else to listen to it. It's kind of like we're brainstorming on the go.
Like dead ass. Here's the answer. Right? You have a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Have a clip of your podcast. Have a video of you talking about your podcast. Have something that I can engage with. If I tell someone, if I'm sitting with like someone of note, right? Like I won't drop names, but if I'm sitting with someone in a week and I'm like, yo, I talked to these kids, younger dudes that have a podcast, XYZ, you should talk to them. Like, they're going to go to your Instagram. That's what I was saying. Slay was like, what are the advice? Like, I'm like, man, I hate to give advice, but I'll tell you this. People hit me up all the time. They're like, check out my music. I hit the little thing. I'm like, man, where's a video? Where's them playing acoustic? Like, I'm like, if you're a stylist and someone's like, oh, like if my brothers are like, yo, so-and-so, Josh will take care of you. Like Vic Mensa was in here and Joel, we're all friendly, you know. And Joel was like, yo, Vic was like, I got a video shoot coming up. And I was like, oh, Joel's like, yo, go look at Josh's racks of clothes. Like, I'm like, yo, take anything you want, man. Like, anything you need for your video, like, whatever. Like, the thing is, if you're a stylist, if you can, like, if like Marvin, this is a story for real, dead ass for real.
Yeah.
Marvin hit me up before I ever worked for him. He goes, yo, Miss 60 is the advertiser, and someone's going to be on the cover. I won't say their name. They're wildly famous. And I don't know if they will, if they'll like all the jeans. Nothing against Miss 60, whatever. I don't even know if they're around. But he was like, can you take, like, 3 pairs of jeans and, like, do something to them? And I was like, yeah, how soon do you need them? And he's like, oh, we need them Friday. It was Wednesday. I got on my bike. I rode to Nylon. I grabbed 3 pairs of jeans, put them in my backpack. I went home, turned on a movie, and I did exactly what I fucking did for Good Charlotte. I had my little materials. I sewed some patches on one pair. I sanded out. I aged this other pair. Went to the laundromat, washed it, pulled it back again, aged it again, sanded it out. Went to the laundromat. I washed the pair of jeans 3 times. Made it, made it look like Bari does jeans. You know, I made them jeans look fucking old, straight up old as fuck. And literally Friday morning, rode my ass back down to Nylon, handed them to the style person. Marvin wasn't even there. And Marvin, bro, dead ass on the cover of the fucking Nylon is home girl wearing the jeans, Miss 60, the ones that I touched. And Marvin's like, he literally wrote me an email like, man, thank you so much. Nothing crazy, didn't pay me, nothing. But it's like, if you're a fucking stylist, if you're a singer, everyone loves the story. Sorry, I sound like Tony Robbins. Everyone loves the story. Oh, yeah, like Big Sean, he got Kanye outside of a record. Yeah, dude, that's how it works.
It's about taking the shot.
But the thing about it is, like, if you go, hey, man, you're a stylist, like, here, take this denim jacket and fucking do something. Like, here's what I want, you know? Here's what I want. I can give people projects all day long. I got 20 photographers on speed dial. I got 4 or 5 video directors on speed dial. I'll make 3 music. I mean, before our company grew to be the number of people it is now, I was making 4 and 5 music videos a month. I was literally like making a video one week, like I was literally like, and the concepts were coming from me, the artist or the director, one of us, you know. The styling was coming from largely me or the artist to be like, I kind of want to wear, like, it was all the creative was from a small tiny ass capsule. And it's like, literally, if you say you can do it, let me see, you know. And it's like, the one thing as a younger person, you kind of have to negotiate. You do one. Like Marvin never took me for, you know, he never took me for a ride. Many other people take you for a ride, but you gotta. That's where I think your intuition and your spirit. I don't know. I'm not saying spirituality, but like your shit. That's why walking around. I'm gonna say something really unpopular right now. Like walking into events, like after you just hotboxed in the car, it's a little weird because kids come up to me all the time, and I'm like baked out of their mind, and they're like, "Yo, I'm this, like, give me like this, like that, like this, like that," and I'm like, "Yo, homie, like, hit me when you're not, you know, twitchy, like, hit me when you're chill, like, because the thing, that ass, like, if you get your shot, you gotta have your fucking facilities, you know, like, by the way, it's like, do that shit whenever you want. I'm just saying, like, it's not really like that, bro. Like, it's not. When Benj and Joel met Pharrell, I'll tell their story. They called me one night. The jump track was made with NERD, and Benj and Joel called me. They called me one night, and they were like, "Yo, like, I was always up mad late, and they were like, "Yo, we just met that dude Pharrell from the Neptunes," and I was like, "Yo, what was he like?" And they were like, "Man, he was mad chill." I was like, "Where were you?" Like, "Oh, we had a party." I was like, "Was it crazy?" You know, lit wasn't a word back then. I was like, was it crazy? Like, was it? And they were like, "Nah, he was super chill. Like, he was just like really, really nice." He said, like, come check out the studio tomorrow. And they went to the studio, and the next day, and then I think I talked to him like a month later, and they were like, "Yeah, remember that guy? We did a song with him, and I think it's going to be on the album." Like, you never know if your song's going to make the album, whatever. Yeah, and it did. And the thing about it is, though, they met him at a party. They were not fucking blasé. You know, they were like, oh, we're just here. Like, you know, they were up and coming. They weren't even like, this is the anthem at the time. They were like up and coming, you know?
Exactly.
And they met him. And by the way, Pharrell was, everybody was up and coming. And by the way, like, what I'm shouting out right now is that, like, they showed up. He's like, yeah, come, like, you know, 11 a.m. or 10 a.m., whatever. The next day, they showed up, and he's like, yo, let's do a song. Right there, like, you're like, okay, let's do it. Like, that's how it works. It's not like, there's no, the who you know, what you know thing is like a huge myth, because it's cool. Like, there's lots of people that I've been in the room with that are very important people that, like, I was in the room with them 10 times before I ever met them. And people are like, hey, man, do you want me to introduce you to so-and-so? And I'm like, yeah, no, like, I'll wait. And eventually I met the person at a time when people were like, hey, they're looking for this. And I'm like, I can do that. You know, it's like, I'm not trying to jump in someone's face and be like, put me on. Like, I'm literally, like, there's a tasteful way to do it. You didn't do that. You hit me up, you're like, hey, man, I'm looking for, I don't even forget the word. You were like, yo, do you have any insight or something like that?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like, but it's a conversation. I learn from you, you learn from me, we share together.
Exactly.
The thing about it is though, bro, is this. People want to say it's not who you know, what you know, this, that, the third. No, it is what you know, bro. Because when you meet someone, people are like, I want to get in the room with so and so. Like, what would you do? Oh man, I tell them about my brand. Okay, so why do they want to know about your brand? If they have their own brand, they have this, that. Like, you like when you talk about someone like Kirby, you talk about Salehi, like you talk about any of these people, White Trash Tyler, and all these kids know these people now. They do things. They are doers. They do things. White Trash Tyler had a video camera or whatever you want to call it, had a little machine to make videos, whatever they call it these days, and he was making that shit way before Travis or anybody else. People saw his work on someone else, and that's it. You do the thing. You take photos. You take photos of your friends. You take photos of people coming through, and it's not like taking a picture of a notable person isn't going to blow you up. It's cool. I've seen lots of cool pictures of my brothers and other people, but I'm telling you, what people will notice is your drive and your output. Like, damn, this person is like, you know, and like, be your brand. Like, be on your Instagram stories and be like,
it's all about patience of like knowing that the time that it's going to take for me to get really good at something is going to take me to get to go through everything. Like you said, you went to New York and you met all these people and you started working for Marvin and at Nylon, and like you took the opportunities that were given to you. Like, granted, yes, you might want to force some opportunities in the sense of like you want to be proactive. You never want to sit on your ass, but it's like you're not hounding a person all day like put me on, and then when they give you the shot, you blow the shot because you're not meant to be in that space yet.
13 years in New York City. I knew Coltrane. I knew Marvin. I knew everyone that I worked with for a while before I worked with them. I was not like looking to work at Nylon. I didn't go to school for it. I did go to school. I learned marketing and economics and I know how to write and do all the other stuff. But I figured I had a blog before, you know, when blogs were the thing. Like when I was traveling around the world DJing, I had a flip cam. I don't forget who made it, Sony or someone. You'd hit this little button and the thing would flip out. You could record things and then you could load it directly on your computer. I was in London. I was staying at this hotel that Jimi Hendrix used to stay at. I forget the name of the hotel. I just remember it was a really cool hotel. And I went outside and I took the flip cam and I pushed record. I set it on this little statue and I walked out about 20 feet, 15 feet. I did a little pose in my fit. Then I went back into the hotel room. I found the little spot on the video, and I took a screenshot, Shift Apple 4, and I took that photo and I put it on the blog. And I was like, "Hey everybody, I'm in London." Da 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 da. You know, and like that was literally how I did my blog. I was traveling around the world alone. There was no plus ones, no extra hotel rooms. I think I was getting paid like a plane ticket and $1,000 to DJ 2 parties, whatever it is. But I was like, yo, I'm doing it. It's bigger than being in La Plata, Maryland, you know? And by the way, for everybody who still lives in La Plata, respect. Like, I love it. I'll go eat at Lido's. It's the happiest, fun memories. But what I'm saying to anybody who's listening is like, Do it. Do your thing. Do it. Bro, there's so many people right now that I would love to meet, and I'm like, man, we can do this, we can do that. Like, I'm creative director for X Large and X Girl right now. If someone from Prada called, would I answer the phone? Yes. I don't know if I'm ready. I'm smart enough to know I don't know if I'm ready. I don't think I'm anyone else. I think I'm me. I don't think I'm any other creative director. We all have different styles. My style of doing things is I'm building teams. I really like my team. I'm building a team. I really like I don't really like to be you can find me if you want to find me. I really don't
You don't want to be in the forefront of everything.
I kind of like being in the shadows though when it comes to I kind of like being in the shadows when it comes to some of the people that I work with, some of the artists. I'm not looking for credit. I guess that's it. I'm not looking for credit. I'm looking for progress, you know?
Exactly. You're looking for the actual success of it rather than, having to kind of Instagram it where it's just you faking it till you make it kind of.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, do you know what kind of car I drive?
No, I don't.
There you go. You know what kind of watch I had? You know what kind I think 2 watches that, you know kind of what? No. By the way, I said, it's dope to share your watches and dope to share your car. I'm not saying don't do that. What I'm saying is my message is there's nothing that I'm doing that no one else can do. And hopefully what I want for the next generation is for them not to, I lived in New York, I was working, so I moved from North Carolina. By the time I moved out here, by the time I became a creative director for Extra Large, it was a real 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
A real 20 years. Now, if I can teach a younger generation and help them and give them insights and put them on maybe not the elevator but the escalator. You ever at the mall and you see a motherfucker walking up the escalator? And you're like, yeah. Damn. You're like, he's gonna get there faster than everybody else. I look for that. I'll give you an escalator, and if you're still walking up the escalator, I'm like, damn, motherfucker, you're really getting after it. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
We do not sit still. And the thing about it is we do. There is Saturday afternoon when I have a slice of pizza with my brother or something like that. But I'm saying
that's needed as well.
You see people. Ronnie Feig, when I met him in 2004, was working in David Z, his uncle's shoe store. He was like, "Hey man, what kind of shoes are those?" And I met him, and I was like, "Oh, cool." And him and Teddy, I think it was him and Teddy, took me to a club that night or the next day. We went to a club, and they were I was new to New York. That was the first motherfucker I met in New York. And it's the hustle that he had when I met him and he's working at I'm like, this guy's definitely going to do something, you know? Yeah. And it's the truth of the matter is, whether you're Jeff Staple or Paul Middleman, who's OG to me and who I love dearly, or Jules Gayton or Aaron Levant, or anybody who has their origin story. Maybe you had a dad, maybe you didn't. Maybe you had money, maybe you didn't. Maybe you went to college, maybe you didn't. Look, I'm not mad at anybody. It's not everything that everyone makes isn't for everyone to consume. You know, It's not about this guy's better than that guy, whatever. I think that's goofy. I think everybody's doing their thing the way they do. Respect to everyone, all the names that I'm naming. You turn around and you realize whether you're Teddy and Ronnie or Jeff Staple or Sean Witherspoon or Don C or Virgil, you realize nobody, whether you know Kanye or whether your uncle was David Z, there's no way that you get where you are without a lot of work. And exactly. I know it's I got to jump off soon, but I know it seems like if you're from a small town or something somewhere, you're just so far away that it just doesn't even matter. That's bullshit. Don't buy that lie. It doesn't matter if you're from, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're from. It doesn't matter if you're from, Peoria, Illinois. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, man. You can point to anywhere on the map. It doesn't matter, man. It does not matter. If you're a girl, if you're trans, if you're gay, if you're older, it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter. everybody has a place in this thing. I think, you know, I deliberately didn't talk too much about our company, MDDN, that I have with my brothers, or X Large too much. I try not to, because those things are amazing and they're a part of my life and I love them. But if we're talking about raising kids, I'm not going to talk about just about my kid. We're going to talk about raising kids. And this is a life process. If you want to be in the creative process and be in the creative field and the creative pool, there's a code of ethics that I would like to see that I don't know if it exists, and maybe that's a conversation for another time. But the code of ethics that I try to abide by is I just try to help out the new person. I try not to, if I hear an idea and it's something that we can do, or if someone, you know, if a brand shot with a photographer and I'm like, yo, like, I talk to Mike Sherman all the time. I'm like, yo, did you guys do this? And he's like, oh yeah, no, we're not going to do that. And I'm like, is it cool if I do that? And he's like, yeah, cool. Or if I'm like, hey man, do you know anybody at this company? He's a helpful dude, you know, like he's helped out a lot. And I think what we really need now more than ever is to concentrate less on. I'm not trying to get a Porsche, man. I drive a Volkswagen. I love it. Big shout out to Volkswagen.
It's reliable as fuck.
I drive a brand new leased Volkswagen. It's amazing. I had a different car that was a little more baller. I got my wife the Volkswagen, and I was like, yo, fuck this. And I literally, everything that I live, working around all these young people, I'm working around a lot of young people that are 21, 22, 20. Why would I ever flex on these young ass kids? Why would I ever show up to work flexing on some kid that's trying to make it? You know, I'm not here to flex on anybody. You know, I'm here to fucking help. And I think, you know, that shout out to round two. When I walked into round two and I didn't know who the owner was, like I was like, hey, like I didn't ask by the way either. I was just like, hey, like you guys are all from Virginia. I'm like, yeah, we all moved to. I thought maybe they all invested in it. I didn't know. I mean, they all pretty much did. But it's like that's the vibe that I want. I've seen several people in my lifetime. I know a couple of I don't know if the dude's a billionaire. I know a couple of multimillionaire dudes that literally walk around in like running shorts, you know.
That's New York.
Some like running shorts and a t-shirt and a good like little windbreaker, like a little. I won't say any brands. I deliberately don't mention brands because I just think that like brands are a byproduct of what we do.
Yeah.
You feel me? Brands are a byproduct of what we do. No disrespect to brand. That's why when I put up something about Salehi, I'm like, thank you to New Balance for giving Salehi the fucking platform. Feel me?
Yeah,
like
exactly,
that's that. Thank you to if Vans partners with Wes Lang or anybody, like I'm like, thank you to Vans for giving thank you. And it's why I think like there's definitely people in the companies that are great people too. By the way, great, amazing. There's people inside the machine that are great. Same thing with record labels. There's good, there's bad, there's whatever.
Sure. There's a bunch of people that are going to defend the culprit.
I don't want anybody to think like, oh, all record labels are bad or all brands are bad. There's good and evil on all of them.
Both sides, you know? Yeah.
And I think it's up to us, what I'm actively trying to do. And by the way, I don't care. Like, I don't know what the world thinks of me. It's really none of my business. I really don't care. I'm definitely got a little bit of a dad bod going on. I'm trying to since I have my daughter, I'm trying to get in shape. But like, look, I'm trying my hardest to be a positive effect on all these things. And my brothers and I, as a group of people in our team, our vice president, Joey, shout out to everybody that takes a chance to work with us. Like, it's all about the ethos and the future of the thing, because this shit is a pool. If you work in streetwear or fashion, whatever you want to call it, music, if you work in the creative world, it's a very small world, and it's better if you just don't poop in the pool. Like, take that shit elsewhere, you know?
That's
like,
a good bar right there.
Everybody's got to swim in the same pool, man. Everybody, whether you think you work in music or you work in fashion or whatever, creativity, artist, you know, like you meet everybody. You meet them all at the dinner parties. You meet them all at the magazine releases. Dead ass, I'm telling you right now. It's better if you got some bullshit, you know, like don't do that shit inside of the fucking thing. And as a whole, maybe ask someone. We're all going to therapy. Everybody's trying to meditate. Everybody's trying to hike. The best thing, get yourself right, man. I don't think Pharrell and Jaden and Sean and Vashti, I know for a fact these people aren't bullshitting about eating good food and being healthy. Yeah. I know that they're real about it. I know that Pharrell, Sean, Jaden, and Vashti, I can tell you right now, I'm shouting them out because they're promoting healthy lifestyles and being good people. Tyler also too, kind of, I think.
Shout out to Tyler.
Like there's a bunch of people that are promoting these good lifestyles and being healthy, and I'm with it. And all I'm saying is if you think any of these people haven't, done some work inside and looked inside and done some therapy and done some things to better themselves, that's really what the fuck it's all about, man. And it's like, look, get the shoes, the clothes, the hats, the brands, all dope, man. I love it. I'm here for it. I'm in it. But also, let's make sure that the people coming up behind us and the people around us and the people even older than us. I talk to lots of OGs. When OGs like kind of angry or kind of like bitter, I'm like, why are you so angry, man? You're an OG. You're like a god in the game. Like, don't be angry. Like I mean it. Like I mean it. Like I talk to OGs all the time. Most of them are pretty happy and like they're finding their happiness. Some are a little bit, some are a little. People have the right to be upset if they started a movement and they're not. Other people are millionaires off what they created. But it's like, let's find a way to get you in the game. Then let's find a way
to connect both of you. The people, the person who's doing what you do the best, and then you connect that.
Dead ass. Like we gotta respect the OGs. We gotta make a place for the OGs. And I think I've enjoyed talking with you guys. I think I'm excited. Not Noah's 11 seasons. Like that's dope. I look forward to. I'm gonna do some more research. I just said. Deadass, like I just hiked with him like a day or two ago, and you were like, "Yo," and I was like, "Yo, let's just do that." Let's just talk.
Yeah. And I appreciate that a lot too, because like there's been a lot of times that people, designers or people from brands who listen to our brand and might hit us up or like a picture on Instagram, and then you ask them would they want to have a conversation about what's going on in the culture and how to put other people on and things of that nature. And I think that touches back to like. What you were saying earlier, where it's like a fear-based thing, where if like, oh, I might make it further than you already are, and that scares you, or somebody that listens to us might do something better than you do, and you think that might take away from your business or whatever you got going on. Rightfully so, because people have to fend for their family. But it's like if you put people on, that gives them the chance to put other people on, and then you have a group like Kanye, Virgil, Don C, Jasper, or you have Tyler, Earl, and it's a movement. It's bigger than what you are.
Yeah. Everything, by the way, everything's not always going to seem fair in the moment.
Exactly.
Someone's going to win an MTV award in a jacket that you sewed on for 9 hours, and you're going to be like, damn, what's that like? Like it's always, there's going to be like, some of your friends are going to get famous and some of your friends are not. And then, it all comes like you've got to keep your eye on the mission. Yeah. And by the way, like I'm not meant to be famous. Like I'm not going for that shit. I like this. If the next time I saw you, somebody in media, Zane Lowe or Apple or whatever, like somebody, like if next time I saw you, Zane had his arm around you and was like, yo, we're welcoming these guys to our thing. Like they just signed a huge deal. I'll be like, damn, go get it. Go get it. I felt it. I could feel that, Like exactly, for me, it's just like, man, like it's crazy. Like jealousy. Look, I'll close with this.
All right.
Jealousy is fear that you won't get what someone else has. And it's not bad. Being jealous, it's not a sin. It's a natural thing. You're a friend and you go to a party and he talks to a girl or a guy, whatever, and then he's like, "Yo, I'm bouncing," and then you're like, you're jealous. That's a-okay. It's a natural human fear that you're not going to have what you need or what you want. Drives you to get like watching, like we were like it's primal, dude. You're sitting watching someone else eat, and you're like, "Oh, they got a big steak. I want a big steak." Yeah. So you get up and you go out and you get it. But the problem is you can't have that jealousy be a driver. If you saw someone get a whip or get something, and then you're like, oh, blah blah, like, oh, he always has this, he always has that. Like you can't trail behind. Jealousy can't continually be your motivator. You got to get a dream and a vision in your head and be like we watch documentaries, we read books, we watch biopics. movies about Steve Jobs or this guy or that girl or this person. Bro, all it is a person that was driven and they were like, I'm going to be this thing, Yeah.
Had a vision and they fought out for it.
That's it. That's it.
Simple.
I appreciate you guys. I'm sorry for talking so long.
Nah, it's good. Like you drop mad jewels, you drop mad shit that people want to hear about, like the industry and what everything is going on. Now, again, we thank you for you coming on here and dropping jewels as an OG. We appreciate you. I know you gotta leave, you gotta do other shit. So we'll end that here. Telatalk season 11, episode 3. Josh Madden, we out.